7.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight is October 21st. It is 7 p.m. It's the Londonderry Town Council meeting. I shall call to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone can please remain standing. Thursday I had the privilege and the honor to tour Arlington National Cemetery. And I brought my 9-year-old son with me. And for the first time since his passing in 2004, I visited my good friend Jay Leto's grave. And I've been avoiding it for the past several years, obviously. And my 9-year-old son, who is wise beyond his years, said, "Dad, are we going to go visit your buddy's grave?" And to hear that from my son pushed me to do something that was the most healing, I found the most healing that I've ever experienced in my life. And as we're walking through the cemetery, and I look at section 60, which is all the service members who's passed with the global war on terrorism, so Iraq and Afghanistan, I'm just reminded that those people gave their life, and everyone in that cemetery gave their life for us to be here tonight and to enjoy the freedoms that we so dearly appreciate. So with that, if we could please have a moment of silence for all those people. Please be seated. All right, folks, we're going to open up with public comment. Before I do so, just want to remind everyone, when you come up to the podium, please just state your name and address for the record. And I know Aaron has a quick update, so I'll open public comment. And Aaron, the floor is yours. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before
Thank you.
Before you start, that same 9-year-old son is dying to know, how's Oscar doing?
Oh, Oscar is doing, I know, in fact, I had some people ask me in the audience, Oscar is doing very well. Very well. Thank you. So my name is Erin Mallon. I'm the Leach Library Director here. I had reached out to the town manager and to you, Chad, for an idea that you both had asked for me to present to public comment tonight. I'm hoping that we can, obviously I know the decisions have to be made and we have to look into things, so I'm not asking for a decision tonight, but I was looking to possibly get a specified or specific parking space dedicated to veterans. I believe Kirsten gave you a sample of what I thought the sign could look like, and you shared some possible locations. So I just would, that would be across from the library building. That parking lot there, I'm asking for one space that would be dedicated to our veterans to be able to park there. So, and with Veterans Day coming up, I thought it might be good to tie it in around that same time if possible. Yeah. And I did offer to work with the DPW to get that sign installed, and I would offer to purchase it as well.
Thank you. So typically we don't open up for discussion during public comment, but I figure we can have a conversation just to get everyone up to speed. Aaron had reached out to Mike and I. There's some short dialogue going back and forth specifically about like spaces and making sure we had the right spaces and stuff. Mike, if you could share a little bit about that research.
Sure. So one of the things that we just want to make sure is looked at is to make sure that removing that space from general parking availability doesn't affect the parking calculations that might apply to the town hall complex. So I don't expect it will, but we want to check that and make sure that it doesn't bring us out of compliance with the town's parking regulations.
Okay. What does the council think?
Oh, we should get back together once he has all his research done on the calculations, and hopefully make a decision before September 11th so that we can potentially install it by then.
Thank you.
But I mean, I don't want to rush it and not have our facts.
Yeah.
November 11th?
November.
That's what I said, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said September. Sorry.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
I'm good with it.
All right, so if you could just provide an email to the council, and
course.
Cheerson, if you could put it on our next agenda, just as under old business. For, do you want to put it on November 4th?
Okay.
That give you enough time, Mike?
Yes.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and certainly if you guys have any questions or any other thoughts, feel free to reach out. It was just an idea I had, and I just wanted to share it with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we're in public comment. Good evening.
Hi, Tara Miles, 11 Lancaster Drive. While I usually start my comments by thanking the council, today I'd like to start by thanking Londonderry's first responders, and in particular our fire department. Thank you for day in and day out caring and taking care of our community, putting your lives on the line for us and protecting us. You're the heroes of our community, and you deserve dignity, protection, support, and respect. Next, I'd like to thank their families, their children, wives, husbands, moms, dads, and extended families. You too sacrifice for our community, the long hours, missed holidays, and accepting the risk your loved one makes every day to serve, and so much more. Thank you to the community members who, like me, are here today to support our fire department. And finally, thank you, Chairperson Franz and council members, for not only listening to us, but really hearing us tonight. As you know, I've long supported the council and town manager Malgudi. I've stood at the same podium when other folks have been here to tear you down. But my support is not unconditional, and it is not without accountability. I support you today because I believe you seek to do the right thing. And like me, you don't always get it right. But also like me, I hope when you don't get it right, you endeavor to make it right. It is a bizarre day when I'm here agreeing with John Esposito on something, but here we are, and here you have brought us. So sit with that for a second. You know, our firefighters don't just put their lives on the line for us. They endure incredible tragedies while serving our community. They're the first ones on the scene when the absolute worst has happened, and they don't get to step back and grieve it. They stand up, they act, they go to work to ensure the best possible outcomes for everyone involved. It would be in poor taste both to the firefighters and to the families involved to list out all of those notable incidents that have happened over the past couple of years, but I'm sure each of you, having been here for a long time, know many of them, and they're sad. And as I said before, you know, our firefighters deserve respect, dignity, protection, and support, and today that looks like appropriate staffing. And when not achievable through normal scheduling, overtime. We need to fully staff our fire department at all times and at a level based on our call volume, population, and other factors like our proximity to the highway and the considerable population of seniors in our community. We should look to our fire department and the National Firefighters Union to understand what that looks like. You are not the experts in this, they are. I read your statement and I was mad. So I gave it a couple days and I read it again as I sought to understand how I can support our firefighters. And when I read it again, I realized what a total misfire it was. When I read it, I realized that it spoke about you, what you have done for the fire department. It didn't address their concerns, but sought to excuse it away and quell the justified community outrage. It sought to position you as the heroes of funding, but it didn't address the budget shortfall we face today, and we face in fully supporting our fire department. This isn't politics, this is public safety. This isn't a campaign, and this isn't about you. This is about the men and women of our fire department and ensuring they have the means to serve our community, to ensure that after a particularly tough call, they're able to take the time for themselves, their mental and physical health, without worrying that taking that time that they may need away means their fellow firefighters are understaffed and at risk. Or that they must go in for their next shift because, well, the department just can't have more overtime. When you characterize overtime as excessive, you create an environment where those who need time away can't take it. You directly impact our hero firefighters and you directly impact their families. It lacks the empathy required to ensure that we have folks prepared both physically and mentally to serve our community. In almost any other public service field, these folks would strike. They would demand their needs. But firefighters can't do that, and they wouldn't do that. They know that that not only puts their community at risk, but their brother and sister firefighters. They are the heroes of our community. So do the right thing. Do more. Yesterday, we had to ask Derry 6 times for mutual aid with 12 of 13 firefighters. Do the right thing. Find the money. Whatever it is in your power to do it. If that takes furloughing administrative employees, do it. If that means raising more money, do it. If it means the town manager doesn't get fresh paint and new carpeting, well, that ship has already sailed, so looks great though.
Terry,
Do it.
You have 30 seconds left.
Sure.
Thank you.
Take care of our heroes. Chairman Franz, you're a veteran. You know what it takes to serve our community, so please do it. Thank you for hearing me out, and thank you to Londonderry Fire Department and all the heroes. Thanks for serving our community.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just for the record, clarify that that was my statement that she was referring to, not the town council's.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Vince Sylvia. I represent the New Hampshire Motorcycle Rights Organization. And I'm here because of the recent motorcycle fatality that happened out on Mammoth Road. And being a resident of the area, I have specifically noted that there is a significant issue with the intersection of High Range Road and Litchfield Road and Hall Road, specifically to the fact that people run the stop sign all the time. There was one incident earlier in the year where it was back in June. I was on my way to Walmart here in Derry, and I almost got clipped, not once, but twice. Once on the way out, once on the way in, because somebody blew the stop sign coming down for High Range Road. Not like just rolled through it. 50 miles an hour through that stop sign. All right? And what we, as an organization, would ask of the town is to do something about that intersection and to do something to address the significant increase in aggressive driving that is going on. All right. We have done a very concerted effort over the last 10 years or so to raise motorcycle awareness, so much to the point where we actually had a bill passed that inserted a 30-minute motorcycle awareness training into the driver's ed program, all right, that all new drivers are supposed to take. So what we are now seeing that after that initial effort, we have reduced the amount of accidents and fatalities that have happened between motorcyclists and automobiles, and that we've seen an increase in our own community causing the accidents. And it's through one of three things. It's riding while impaired, riding beyond your ability, or speeding. And we have taken a concerted effort to actually do something about that within our own community, within the motorcycling community. So we're making an effort to address those issues right now. But the data over the last year and a half, 2 years or so post-COVID has indicated that there is more of an uptick of motorcycle car-related accidents because the data from NHTSA is pointing to aggressive driving, distracted driving, and things of those natures. We're not killing ourselves anymore. We're starting to get killed by car drivers again. So what we will be willing to do, we're not just coming here to say, hey, here's a problem, you guys go fix it. We've identified that this is the issue, okay? This particular intersection is way above anything else, and it totally needs to be addressed. But we also have the ability with our resources and the relationships that we've built to actually bring and apply funding from the state and the federal level. So if you as the board want to actually discuss this and do this, Londonderry could be the leading lighthouse here in New Hampshire to change this, to actually make a difference on it. And we're here because of the location, all right? You have 93, you have Route 3 over here, you have Route 28. There's a lot of traffic that comes through this town, all right? And we just want to help you. We want to help ourselves. We want to help the community. We want to help you make this safer so that nobody else gets killed. That's all we want. So I've already been in communication with you guys, and if you need anything else, you want to follow up on this, we were very happy to discuss this. We have multiple resources that we can bring to bear to help you guys solve this problem. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay England, and I reside at 41 Royal Lane in Londonderry, New Hampshire. I stand before you tonight as a lifelong resident of Londonderry, an elementary teacher in our school district, and the proud sister of a Londonderry fireman, Mike England. Like many of you, I was deeply saddened to hear of Chief Bo Butler's resignation. His decision reflects the untenable choice that he faced: either compromise the safety of his firefighters or sacrifice his own position. By resigning, Chief Butler made a powerful statement. He refused to jeopardize his crew's lives or safety to satisfy a budget. As someone who grew up in this town and now teaches in one of our elementary schools, I've seen firsthand how close-knit the members of our fire department are. My brother Michael has served with the Londonderry Fire Department full-time for 9 years, and as a call firefighter before that. I've witnessed how selflessly these men and women risk their lives for ours. Over the past year alone, they have responded to a range of extraordinary emergencies, from a car crashing into a river to a well-known plane crash, along with countless critical medical and fire incidents. These are individuals who embody bravery and sacrifice, and as a family member, I feel the weight of that every day. I've heard the stories of my brother pulling a victim from a submerged vehicle with only a rope securing him as water surged around him after his equipment failed. He saved that man's life and his crew's. He was also able to come home that night to his wife and children. I also heard details of how Mike entered a smoke-filled cockpit covered in jet fuel to cut a pilot out of his seat and push him to safety. All the while, he knew his wife and 2 young children were waiting for him at home. When I asked why he puts himself in these life-threatening situations, he told me, because I know my brothers, my fellow firefighters, will have my back. Firefighters understand the risks they inherent to their job. They accept those risks willingly. What they should never have to accept is operating with reduced manpower due to budget shortfalls. These men and women sacrifice their physical and mental well-being for our safety every single day. The least we can do is ensure that they are properly staffed, as the town already voted to do so. Our priorities as the Londonderry community must be reflected in our budget. The safety of our citizens and those who protect us should be at the top of the list. To the members of this council, I urge you to reflect on the decision that Chief Butler was forced to make. I urge you to properly prioritize the health and safety of not only our firefighters and first responders, but also the citizens they protect by ensuring that the department is adequately staffed. Provide our firefighters with the manpower and resources they need to perform their duties safely for themselves and for the community they are sworn to protect. As this town continues to grow, the stakes are higher than ever, and the need for adequate staffing in our fire department becomes even more critical to ensure the safety of both our first responders and the citizens they protect. First responders are the backbone of public safety. They are the ones pulling people out of burning buildings, rescuing victims from car wrecks, and providing critical care in medical emergencies. How can their safety be treated as a mere line item in a budget? Our priorities should reflect in our budget, and if you ask me, the lives of our citizens and first responders should be at the very top of that priority list. They are not just Londonderry firemen, but they are also husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, and in this case, my older brother. As I mentioned, my brother knows his crew will always have his back. And their goal is not only to save lives, but to make sure every member of their team comes home safely to their families. This is what's at stake. The number on a firefighter's helmet is not just a line item in a budget. It is a badge of honor, a symbol of their courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to serve and protect. Their value cannot be calculated in dollars and cents. It is measured in the lives that they save. Thank you to the Town Council for your time. And thank you, Chief Butler, for your leadership in putting the safety of my brother and his fellow firefighters above all else. I commend your courage, and I hope the entire town understands who you stood up for by stepping down. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Dr. David E. Walker, 5 Harvest Moon Road, Londonderry. I am an outraged citizen. My family chose to retire here 5 years ago because of the reputation of the Londonderry Fire Department and not being a volunteer fire department. Did not we vote 70% of the vote to fund the police department, to fund the fire department in the last election? Why are we here discussing firefighters and the community support when the community clearly has shown that support in their vote?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. John Grennan, 14 Jewel Court. I came tonight. I normally don't come to these. I've probably come to 4 or 5 of these in 18 years, and I'm coming because of what I saw here at the last meeting. And I think it's incredibly embarrassing for this community, what occurred here at the hands of our local government. And it's tragic what occurred here for our fire chief. It really is. If the price of gas went up because of some global catastrophe and it was over the budget, would we stop buying gas? Or would you find more money to buy gas? You'd find more money to buy gas. This fire department is understaffed. By national standard, they are not staffed appropriately. That's number one. Number two, the citizens in this community want this fire department staffed to at least 13, and they are not. And we put the fire chief in an impossible position to make a decision to put his members at risk. That's what we did. That's what you did. He didn't do it. You did. The buck stops here. You manage the budget, you manage the community, and you manage the town. And that's the position we put this young man in. A man who grew up here, a man who gave his life for this town, whose family was politically active in this community. What did we do? We're on Channel 7 in Boston because we can't support our fire department. What does that make us look like here? What does that make our property value look like here? I mean, that's really, but that's not what's important here. These people in the back of the room, we're putting them at risk. When I moved here, they had 2 people on an engine. It's like riding a horse backwards. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And now we have 2 or 3 people, and that's ridiculous too. See, I live on this side of Londonderry over here, so next to me is Litchfield. The Litchfield Fire Department doesn't have an ambulance. The Litchfield Fire Department doesn't have a ladder truck. I don't even know if they have water. So I live over there, and I'm 52 and could probably use to lose 30 pounds, so I'm getting concerned. And then I find out that yesterday Wyndham's here, and Bedford's here, and Derry's here. What's going on? You people run this town. We have a $17 million wage allotment, and this man bumped into $250,000. That's 1.3% of our overall wages from 2023. You guys couldn't address 1.3%? You couldn't come up with that? I mean, I know I'm not going to get an answer here tonight, but we sacrificed this young man. That's what we did. We looked terrible. And everybody should be ashamed that he had to make the decision that he made on behalf of his members and on behalf of the residents in this community. But make no bones about it, guys. We are not protected to the level that we should be protected. And when I call 911 for an ambulance, I'm going to wait. And you know what? Time and medicine and electricity and medication and trying to get to one of these hospitals, someone's going to die. But I'm less concerned about me, and I'm far more concerned about these people who we made a deal with. We made a deal with those guys, too. That when we call at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's an emergency, they show up. They put themselves at risk and they show up. That's the deal you made. You guys ran. You guys said, vote for me. You had your coffee hours. We voted for you. And then this is what occurred. And I'm as mad, I think, as a lot of people in town are. And I'm even madder at the statement that came out. It was like 50% direct bargaining with the membership.
Excuse me, John.
And 50% directly to the town.
Can you focus your comments to me, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's difficult to focus the comments to you because, point of order, the town manager just corrected the woman before.
I understand that.
Okay. So that statement came out, and we started arguing about an HR issue publicly. Now, there have been other HR issues in this community, some involving people who were terminated for town hall. And when people ask questions, it was an HR issue. We don't talk about it. But the Bo Butler issue makes Channel 7 news in Boston, and the town puts a statement out 48 hours later. Is that even remotely responsible?
John, you have 30 seconds.
Or was that fair to him? It was not. I will end with this. You ran. This is your position. You're putting these kids in the back of the room at risk. And if we were off by $250,000 on a $17 million line item and you didn't see that coming, you guys got a problem. Somebody should have stepped in and told these people, we're going to give you the money you need. And you have opened Pandora's box in this town. That's what's happened here. So I'll be the first one to say it shouldn't have to be a warrant article for 15 or 16 people. It should be somebody stepping up and saying, we're going to protect these people at the back of the room and those people over there. Thanks for your time.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name is Susan Delisandro. I live at 459 Mammoth Road. I've never spoken at one of these, so excuse me, I get really nervous. But I just wanted to come here and voice my support for our fire department. I am really quite beside myself. I live on Mammoth Road. The amount of sirens, engines, ambulances that we have going by our house on a daily basis has gone up considerably. The amount of serious incidents that they're attending to has gone up significantly. If we cannot support and staff our department in a level that is going to protect them, what the heck are we doing as a town? There's a cost to everything. There is a cost to being understaffed. Are you willing to pay that debt? There's a cost to mutual aid. What are we paying other towns to come and support us? Has that been calculated into the budget decision when this was carelessly made? I don't have family on the department here, but I do know that they would go out of their way for my family. I do have lots of family in fire service, in police service, in all sorts of other towns. I know what they go through on a daily basis. I know what it means for them to be understaffed. It puts them at such higher risk. They're already taking an incredible risk in their job. To leave them in a position where potentially they're doing a job without the right resources or incredibly emotionally and physically drained because they haven't had proper time to recover, unable to take time off like other people have addressed. It is not just fiscally irresponsible, but it is irresponsible as a town. The residents here voted. It was probably one of the highest supported measures I've seen our town come to. It was obviously very highly supported that we staff them at a proper level. And for our budget committee, and I apologize again if I'm speaking incorrect, but for our budget committee to just decide that this isn't important enough, it does not make sense. It does not show you that you support the residents and what our needs and wants are. It's not just our fire department that you're putting in jeopardy. It's the residents of this town as well, that they're here to support. And I truly, truly hope that the comments here today cause you to reconsider. I know for a fact in the 20 years that I've been in this town, you guys have found the budget for many projects that I did not deem to be at a high level of importance. And I've supported the town. I've paid our taxes. This benefits every single citizen of the town, and more importantly, it protects those that are protecting us and protecting you. So find the money. Like, that's the bottom line. This is not something that can be negotiated. It's not a level that is able to be upkept. And I, again, appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, councilors. I'm Ellen Brito, 19 Severance Drive in Londonderry. So I just want to voice that it's very disconcerting to me that yet another valued town of Londonderry employee has left their job for reasons that we always seem to not get the full story on. This one, maybe, a little bit more, but for Chief Butler to resign because he felt he was going to be putting his staff at risk, and if he was concerned about that, we should be very concerned. The men and women of the fire department are the people we depend on. I had an emergency at my home less than 30 days ago. They were there in 4 minutes, put myself at ease, took care of my brother, and you can't put a price on that. You cannot put a price on knowing these men and women are going to show up when I need them. So I'm just asking you that they deserve adequate staffing. They deserve our support. They deserve a chief like Chief Butler. I would hope that maybe the ship hasn't sailed and maybe you can find it to get him to come back. And that's all I want to say. Please work on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brittany Bonvie. I live at 91 Rockingham Road. I just wanted to come up here and ask if any of you on the council can inform me as to how collectively as a community, all these people that live here, reside here, and went out and voted. I just want an answer as to how we voted such a positive to helping the men and women that protect us and why that got stripped away from them. Does anybody have an answer for me for how that works or how that comes into play? Did my vote not exist? Did it get taken away?
So we don't have question and answer during public comment. It's an opportunity for the public to
I know, but we're all here. Like we all have everybody in here, and they want to know the same answer that I'm asking. So are we going to find out like eventually, or does it not matter that we vote?
The votes matter.
Well, that's how you guys got in your positions. We voted you in.
We have our first budget workshop November 2nd where we discuss the budget and the process. That will be the time that this will come up. We don't typically have a question and answer for that, so this is for the public to comment.
I think your question is an important one, and I want to hear from everybody here tonight and just try to formulate and think about. Like I'm taking this in. I realize there's a community full of people who all of this is very important to. So I don't want to step over the top of anything anyone else is going to say, but I do think people deserve answers to questions. So I'm going to try to formulate all that.
I appreciate that.
But I want to hear from everyone.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. And I just come here to support them. Obviously, in my family, I support them as well. Local on my shirt, local that I live in this community. And obviously, I have other people that live in other communities, and we do have to ask aid from Bedford or Hudson or Wyndham. It puts a strain on their department. So it's like, where can we be able to pull from the surplus that we do have here to give to the fire department that we did vote in. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to make sure they're all done talking before I speak.
It's public comment. There's no order.
Is anyone else coming up to speak on yes?
No, go first, please.
No, this is totally separate from this. I'd rather have it.
That's all right. That's all right. This is what it's about.
This isn't about that.
No, that's okay.
Break.
Good evening.
Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. I'm here as a citizen and a resident. I'm speaking on about a new business item on the public comment, and as I say, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of what was going on. I'm here to speak quickly about the possibility of implementing a town facility rental policy. I reached out to Mr. Malaguti about it because my questions are why? What do you hope to gain by instituting a policy that if a resident wants to use a room, they have to pay for it, when the residents are paying for the building, the maintenance of the building, the electricity, the cleaning, and everything? I understand if you want to have non-residents pay for use of the buildings, but why now? Why now? And if you're going to charge here, what about the groups that already meet here? Are they going to be grandfathered in? You have written down for-profit or not for nonprofit. Who's going to break down exactly what's for-profit and what is not for-profit? And if you're going to start charging here, does that mean the community room, quote, community room at the police department will be charged for next? Does it mean that the library will be charged for next? I just don't understand what you're hoping to gain by doing this. I, as my other hat as a legislator, have meetings for the public to bring information to them. I make $100 a year. Am I a profit or a nonprofit? So, you know, I mean, what is the purpose about this? Why now? With everything that's going on, why now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Jacobsmeyer. I lived at 60 Alexander Road. I speak on behalf of Chief Butler and his men and women because I know what it's like to be family. I was a 35-year firefighter in the city of Everett. I've only lived here for 9 years. I know I'm a relative newcomer. I was diagnosed with cancer 2 years before I retired. Spent that time disabled on the job. When I decided with my doctors I would never be healthy enough to do the job again, I retired. But those brothers and sisters drive up here from Massachusetts and take me to the Dana-Farber a couple of times a month. That's what this brotherhood is. And when a man like Bo Butler stands up for his people, you need to take and understand what he's doing. That's the first issue. The second issue, do I understand you're a veteran?
Yes, sir.
I assume there's a lot more veterans in this room. I'm a veteran. My father, my grandfather, my uncle. I come from a long family of veterans. And I take my right to vote extremely seriously. When I walked into that gymnasium across the street, I had 21 staples in my neck from my latest surgery 6 days prior. But I made it there to vote. And I believe my vote counts. And when 70% of the people vote for something and it does not happen, somebody needs to answer to us. You won't do it tonight, but you can't hide behind the ballot box. And I'm so upset right now with this because I take my right to vote so seriously I never miss a vote. And when I vote, I expect it to be adhered to by the community that I'm voting in. Remember that at the ballot box.
Good evening.
Hi, Chad. Good evening. My name's Dave Plaza, 207 Pillsbury. I'm here as a resident, not a member of the Budget Committee. A couple things that, dealing with fire department, police department in the past. When we were building the old firehouse, the new firehouse, I always used to tell Chief O'Brien and talk to him about it and said, hey, how's the budget going? He says, yeah, we might be a couple $100,000 over, 300, whatever. Every time I heard that, I always told him, spend the money. Do it right. Build that building right, because safety is first. Okay? Number two, we have this thing called the undesignated fund balance, $6 to $7 million, I do believe, right now. Last year, we had a town surplus of $600,000. Why are we talking about $250?
That's what I said.
And finally, to the police department and fire department, thank you for all the times you've come to my house and helped us out.
Erin Westling, 10 Hazelnut Lane. I haven't prepared anything, but I'm a 23-year emergency room nurse, level 1 trauma. Some of the most trusted friends and people that I know are the firefighters that bring patients into the emergency departments that I've cared for. The tragedies that they've seen, the things that they have been experienced in homes, on sides of highways where I've stopped to render care before somebody else comes along to help them. Most of us will never ever know what they see. But I can tell you that taking the staff away from them is going to cause more people to experience burnout. It's going to cause less people in our town that want to provide care for our citizens. I'm so disappointed in what this town wants to do. We want to increase the amount of people that we're bringing into Londonderry to live here at Woodmont and everything else. How do you expect 11 firefighters on a crew to take care of an entire town that you want to bring more people into? It's absolutely appalling. I hope that there's a fix for all of this. I applaud Chief Butler, and I honestly put all my support behind the firefighters. I think this is just such a tragedy.
Hello, my name is Melissa Keys, and I reside at 312 Mammoth Road here in Londonderry, right up the street. There has been a significant increase in first responders. And then on top of it, reading the local newspapers, a new mental health hospital coming in. A few people, I think Sean voted to wait. And a few others. I've met Sean before. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. There are a few other people who I should be crediting. To wait and get what we want from those developers who are going to take, so that we have the money to take care of our community, our first responders, our firefighters, our police officers. Bo Butler also said something about it in the paper, and along the lines of, they say it's going to be one extra call, but from experience, probably more like 12 to 15 on the first day is what he said. And then today, and then to hear about the resignation, are we not listening? Are we not listening to what the people who take care of us need? Can we slow down and listen to what they need and what we need? And then on top of it, 250 rental properties being developed on Pillsbury right up the road. I see that front page paper. I see all these new developments that look like they're going to be very profitable for someone. But if they're not profitable for us and we're not putting that money back into the firefighters, the police, the schools, what are we doing? Who's profiting? What are we building? That's it. Thank you. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I know it's late, but thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Kelly Savan. I live at 3 King Edward Drive. I haven't done this before either, so I am a little nervous, even though I do public speaking for a living, so it's a little odd that my voice is being like this. I have lived almost 17 years in Londonderry. Before that, I grew up in Litchfield and had a short time in Massachusetts. My husband and I moved back here because of the small town feel, the support that we have in the education system and in the public response, in the public service. I voted last election for support of the police department and the fire department. And I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old. And it's very difficult to see the amount of suicides that we have seen increase in town among teens and the mental health crisis that we've been seeing as well. And so my children have had to deal with that. I've had to deal with it. And I would hate to see that we don't have the support that we need from public response if those continue to happen, which, of course, there's many things that we need to do to stop that from happening in the begin with. But I just want to voice my support for them, and I will continue to vote in the election to support our fire department, our police department, and any other service department. And I will continue to vote against town officials that do not support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Tom Newman, resident 14 Gary Drive. I'll keep this short and sweet. I hate politics more than I hate public speaking. But my point here is everyone who's already spoken tonight did an absolutely incredible job of not only explaining what the people want and why they want it, how much the fire department means to this town. I grew up in this town, and now I'm lucky enough to call this town my hometown again, raising my family here. And if there's one department in this entire state that I trust to respond to my house for my family when I'm on shift as a full-time firefighter in another town, it's the Londonderry Fire Department. The men and women in the Londonderry Fire Department respond to every single type of call that you can imagine. 3 a.m., raining, snow, Christmas, it does not matter. The point is, there is no rhyme or reason to when calls come in. Staffing is what matters. So to someone who doesn't understand the fire department, 13 to 12 may not seem like a big deal. What most people don't realize is how many people it takes to run one average medical call, let alone a cardiac arrest, a severe trauma on the highway, a technical rescue in an embankment in the river. It doesn't matter. Staffing is what matters. 15 would be a good start, not 13. The town wants 13. Give them 13. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Laurel Lynn Jurgens, and I live at 8 Kimball Road, and I've been a resident of Londonderry for 34 years. I completely thought that this whole staffing was resolved last March when we voted overwhelmingly 70% to staff the fire department. 7 months later, come to find out, our beloved chief resigned, and here we are fighting for them to be fully staffed at 13. I'm so disappointed in every single one of you that you're not doing your job. You got to do your job. You got to make it happen, and we got to staff the fire department and support them. As a community, we need them. They have our backs, and we need to have theirs. And that's it.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Daniel Bouchard, 8 O'Connell Drive, Londonderry. I'm going to address my comments to the vice chair because last time we had a meeting here, questions were asked if you guys knew about this letter. All right. Sean wasn't here. Ted said you didn't. Ron said you didn't. John Farrell said you didn't. The chair never responded. Okay? I will tell you that I've been a resident of Londonderry for over 40 years, and it's a bottom line budget. Okay? It doesn't matter. You can go through your whole budget process, and you can say, you know what? We want to cut this, we want to cut that. You got a bottom line budget. people in town supported 13 firefighters. Last meeting, you saw all the firefighters in support of their chief who resigned. Okay? Sean, you weren't here. You weren't aware. You weren't aware of what was going on. The chair was aware of what's going on. Let me explain something. Something came out about a letter. And my understanding, because I've done some digging, all right, is that the chair and the town manager were involved in this meeting with our fire chief. I don't know how that's possible when you're looking at disciplinary actions, because having worked in this town for a long time, and I know how bargaining units work, all right, if you're going to grieve something, there's a process where you grieve certain steps. You go to your town manager if you don't agree with it. If you don't agree with the town manager, it goes to the council. I don't understand how a member of the town council can be sitting with the town manager on a disciplinary issue with a department head, and then later on go ahead and sit, if that department head brought it forward, sit there and make an impartial decision. Okay? Something smells rotten about this whole situation. Okay? We should have never lost Chief Butler. Never. Okay? This should have never happened. The rest of the council should have been aware of what was going on. And I'm sad that that happened. I was really irritated when I read the letter from the town manager, you know, with his rebuttal. Always has to have a rebuttal. Okay? But I'll tell you what, when I read that rebuttal, town manager, the chair didn't provide us with all this stuff. The taxpayers did. The taxpayers are the one that paid, that wanted this stuff. We paid for it. Okay? So when you're looking at dairy coming over here all the time and all these other departments, you know, it should tell you something. Something is wrong here. We need to staff our personnel properly, whether it's the fire, whether it's the highway, whether it's the police. Okay? The last thing we need is some of our personnel getting hurt. Okay? And I hope that the town's going to get some answers. And I know, been here a long time, and it's always kick the can down the road, just ignore the people, it's going to go away. All right? It happened with the Gandia issue. All right? People ignored it and ignored it. All right? And you never got answers out of it. I'm hoping that we're going to get answers with this fire department. The fire department, police department, the highway department, all our public service, they need the support. It's a bottom line budget. Okay? I read today in Facebook, all right, that, oh, look, we painted this room for the town manager and we gave him new flooring. To me, that's not being, you know,
Dan, you have 30
responsible.
seconds.
That's not being responsible whatsoever with the town finances. Not when you're looking at a issue with the fire department. Allocate your money properly. All right? I don't see where flooring has a priority over supporting these gentlemen and these ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Tony, before you say anything, I just want to clarify some misinformation. I do. I wasn't part of any process prior.
I thought you couldn't answer
Yeah, I thought you can't answer questions.
It's the chair's prerogative. If the council wants to overrule me, then the council can.
All right.
So I just want to clarify, I was not part of any process prior. So to make an accusation that I wasn't fair.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Council. All right. Were you in the room with the town manager and the fire chief discussing a personnel issue concerning his a letter?
No.
I thought you can't answer questions.
Exactly.
Really? You're going to go there? All right? If that's the case, Chad, all right, and the way you've handled this, all right, I think instead of the chief resigning, I think you should resign.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, sir.
All right.
All right. Been waiting for my moment. I want everybody to pay attention to what I'm about to say. I am Kim Bernard, and I am the president of LEEA, which is the department heads. To answer the question that you were put on the spot for by Mr. Bouchard, is quite simple. There was 4 people in this room when this took place. I was one of them, as the union president, representing my coworker and friend, Mr. Butler. So, there's all kinds of misguided facts that are put out there. I was there. I love Bo like a younger brother. I have known Bo since he was 16 years old, and I used to kick him out of the plateau. It's easy to point blame at the department heads. But I can tell you, managing the PD for just over 2.5 years, 3 budget processes, and years of homework on the budget process, there's enough blame to go around. Now, before anybody claps for me, you may not want to. So, budgetary responsibility is the sole responsibility of a department head. Plain and simple. I blow my budget tomorrow, I'm gone. That's the facts. It's the way it goes. It's in the law. I get fired tomorrow if I commit a crime. You may not like me. I may not do what you tell me. But as long as I come under budget, I'm good. The problem that we have here is that this default process has been in effect for going on 15 years. So what happens is this. I hate to give a lesson today, but where's Chris Schofield? Chris, union guys, I hear you. Hang tight with this. This is a 14-year problem. It's not a last year's problem. When we come to the budget process as department heads, it's our responsibility to present a budget to the budget committee, members of the town council, that we think are the needs for our agency in that fiscal year coming up. Our budget process started for us at the PD back in July. We're ready to go for Thursday when we meet with the finance director. I don't want to give all my secrets away, but I'm looking towards an increase of $300,000. And that's being conservative because that's what I do. The problem that I have is when I hear other people suggest that you just take it from somebody else. I want to share facts. Last year, during the budget freeze, I was not happy. My staff was not happy. We haven't increased staffing at the PD in 24 years. That's how long I've been here. We've remained the same exact staffing, 3 patrolmen on day shift. We figure it out. When 2010 happened, we had a reduction in staff. We went from 72 cops down to 64. We act like adults. We figure it out. We manage our budget. You manage your personnel. You got to be creative. You got to find ways to adapt, figure these things out. While the town does approve a budget line, you guys hear us, whether or not we present it in an accurate way, that's on us. I pride ourselves as the PD of the historical education that we received for years on end about proper budget management. We were always told, $1, you're out the door. I'm telling you, and I'm trying to share, these fellow department heads that run every department in town sacrificed last year. We did. DPW did. Public Works and Engineering did. Code Enforcement did. Art and Parks and Rec did. And I'm sure LFD did too. There is no easy fix. Well, everyone loves the word transparency, so I'll just say it. They want you to tell the truth until they want to hear it. I bet you we're about $2 million underfunded across the board. So if everybody here wants to say yes to $2 million, I'm going to go back. I'm going to scratch that $290,000. I'm going to blow that thing to where it should be.
Do it. Yeah.
Right? So the point that I want to emphasize is I think while this is all important to hear, I think it's important to understand why we got here. I know you didn't create this situation. This has been going on forever. I realize that some of you weren't here last year during the budget process. We're going to be here in November. You're going to hear from every department head. Is Fred or... No. So we're all going to be here. I'll speak for them. They'll be here. We're going to bring you a budget that's appropriate, that's reasonable, that the voters, as we're hearing today, that they want public safety fixed, right? But I just want you guys all to know that there's a cost when we go over. There's a cost when there is a freeze. We have to be creative as we did last February with that 6 months budget freeze. We had to be creative. I had to cancel training. I had to stop a shipment of guns that we were trying to replace. I stopped hiring processes for the 4 cops that we had in the background at the time. We eliminated other coverages with lieutenants covering down on extra shifts. We'd be creative when we had vacancies. If someone was out with a workman's comp issue, I would pull someone from a different assignment. We figure it out. We'll always figure it out. No matter what we are given, we have to figure it out. But I want you guys to know that this has been going on forever. This is not a last year's problem. This has been going on systemically for many, many, many years upon end. So while I agree with some of the things that were said, I don't agree with everything when it comes to what had taken place. And while we always talk about integrity, saying and doing the right things, and leadership and honor and leading and all these things, some of the things that have been said about what happened with Bo is not true. Bo and I were in the room. I won't get into specifics because I don't want to violate any privilege. I represented Bo. Bo was never threatened to be suspended for not reducing staffing. That was never said. I was there. And if you don't believe the police chief, I don't know who you're going to believe. I was there as the union president. There are situations that we all try to work through as department heads. We communicate with one another. We try to see what each other are looking to do. Would I love to put a carport and protect all the cruisers? Because now that's like around $1 million for 27 new cars. I would. Does it make sense? Probably not. Would we like to do an addition on the PD right now because we have no more locker space and we're at max capacity? I would, but I'm not. Because I know my fellow men and women that work over the DPW shed have been working in a rundown place since the 70s. They need something. So while I recognize that every department head up here has made sacrifices, I know that individually you guys all know that too. But not everybody else does. Not everyone knows that. Being a union president is very hard. It takes a lot of responsibility. It takes a lot of teamwork. It takes a lot of courage. But it also takes, the most important part is listening to your bosses too. Mike is my boss. You're all my boss. During the budget season, you are the only boss. And I will say this about Justin. I know a lot of people were angry with him last time. I am on a limb here by myself over a moat of alligators. This man will help any department head at any time. I've been there. I've been told no, we figure it out. I've been told wait, I wait. I've been told let's be creative, let's see what we can do. That's what we do as adults. That's what we do as responsible department heads. I think that this is so important that it's unfortunate that it happened in the way that it did. But it needs to be said, and I think the time to do this is to take this energy that everyone is bringing today, convert it to the budget season as department heads with true numbers so we can give you massive migraines. And then, unfortunately, you're going to be the most hated man when you tell everybody that their taxes are going to go up to 22 something per thousand instead of the 1852 that it is, and then they're all going to hate you. But this is, I know what you're going to say, but then what do we do, right?
No,
so
it's just like we just keep building and building and building, and I've done a lot of research, and it does depend on what your age is and what you pay for taxes. And what bothers me is that some people that are on these committees don't even live in this town.
Well, I can't speak on any of that, but what I can tell you is that from the department head standpoint, we're all going to get together, I'm sure, during the budget process. We'll put our heads together. I just want to say that I realize that there's a lot of unknown questions tonight, but you're going to have the cooperation from all department heads. We'll figure this out together, and I apologize for creating work, but I'll see you on Thursday. I believe everything is ready to go. If you guys have any questions for me about any of this, if not, I'm going to go sit back over there and take notes.
January 31st, in the town manager's conference room. Can you speak at the mic so that people
Can we hold on a second?
Well, we're gonna. You guys want facts,
Can we
we're
hold
gonna
on a
get
second, please? I don't want to get in the back and forth.
I'm just.
Chris, you don't want to get in the back and
That's
forth.
fine. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna dispel. All right.
Chris.
All I'm gonna say is January 31st, upstairs, second floor, town hall, town manager's conference room. Chief Butler, in fact, 100% on both my kids, was threatened by town manager Malaguti that if he went over budget, there would be a hard decision to be made. Everybody can read between the lines. There was Tara Koza was in the room, Justin was in the room, we had our Union E board was in the room. I swear on everything that threat was 1,000% made. So you were not in the room as the union president.
He's talking about January 31st. I'm under the impression that the conversation was directed at the most recent chain of events. I don't know about last year because I wasn't there last year. Thank you. Are you guys good with that? You good? Good?
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Tony DeFrancesco, One Cheshire Court. I want to talk about puppies. So I will tell you that seems to me, and I've been here 46 years now, 46 going on 47 years, and I was an adult. Some would argue with that most of those years. The fact is, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but ever since we went to SB2, we've had problems with overtime budgets. For all of these folks sitting in the front row to my left, you're right. There comes a time when we have to stop making budgets that get people reelected. The time has come to stop kicking the can down the road and make realistic budgets that work. We hire people and we pay them a lot of money to manage departments, but yet we don't give them the financial resources to be able to do that. That's one person's opinion after 46 years and hearing the same thing over and over and over again. Please do what you can to fix it. I've spent the entire 46 years trying to stay out of situations like this. I've spent all of that time refusing to talk when there was personnel issues. And I am not talking about personnel issues, I'm talking about financial issues. I will also tell you that for anybody that's watching on TV or anybody that's listening, there is the charter of the town of Londonderry that answers almost every question that you wanted to have answered. And on top of that, the state RSAs, which piggyback with the charter of the town of Londonderry on the rules and regulations. It's actually RSA title, the Title III RSAs, talking about governing of towns. I will tell you that when you read these documents, you can find that there is a way out of this mess. Find it. It's there. If you can't find it, call me. Now, the fact is, as you read through this, you can see it's clearly defined in here that the town manager, by state statute and the charter of the town of Londonderry, hires, fires, and manages people. The town council manages the town manager. please manage quieter. We don't need to be on Channel 7 News, as was talked about earlier. This is a big embarrassment for all of us. All of us have egg on our faces. Nobody wins. Some are bigger losers than others, but we're all losers on this. Please manage quieter, and please fix the budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we is it all right with you? What I would like to do is let everyone else go before we have someone come up. Thank you. Anyone else?
Absolutely.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to make people aware of, and I respect Kim Bernard, Chief Bernard. He's a great guy. Kim Bernard told you on this mic, recorded at home, that if you go over budget, you're what? Fired. You're gone. Okay? So, what does that tell you? Now, want to ask Sean, you weren't, and I'm not going to address you, Town Councilor, Chairman, because I've lost respect for you. You haven't been, in my opinion, and it was brought out at the last council meeting that you didn't talk to your other councilors about a very serious manner. So I am going to address Ted Coombs. And I want people to realize March is voting, and if you don't like them, get them out. You want it, you're going to get it. Sean, could I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry that you couldn't make the last meeting. Ted, is it okay if I address?
Of course.
Thank you. I need to know, did you know anything about the letter that that the manager of the town sent to Bo Butler?
I did not.
Okay. So, we have 3 council members about a department head that received a letter, and it's on the other tape if you want to read it, for 5-day suspension that's had a clean record. 3 councilors. The 4th councilor, who isn't here tonight, didn't find out until 5 hours before. Were you hiding it from him? Were you trying to get your ego to, I'm going to call the shots? What happened here? Where is the honesty? Where's the transparency? I've had battles with Esposito and Ms. Perez sometimes. But you know something? When they're right, they're right. And you know, they're right. And you're wrong. And the threat about going over a budget, it was confirmed by your police chief. Chief Butler didn't always follow the rules when it came to what do you want me to say? What do you want me to hear? The town manager, he's the one that's supposedly operating the town. He wants to bring development in, and you know something? Our fire chief spoke the truth about the hospital that wanted to go up at the airport. And you know something? He didn't like it. And there's the politics. There's the politics, gentlemen. He didn't like it, so what did he do? Do you know? Did human resources know about the budget or about the letter that Mike Malaguti, the town manager, no secret, sent to Bo? Did our town attorney look it over? I know what the answers are. The answers are no. Shame on you, Mr. Chairman. There's a management problem in this town. And it needs to be fixed. And it stinks from the head down. That goes for you, and that goes for you. There is no confidence whatsoever that I have, and I think a lot of the people in this town have, for you and for you. And I suggest you start looking for another job.
One minute. I just wanted to clarify a comment that because of Chief Bernard's comment up here, which was very well received and articulate, whether it's Mr. Wally or it's Chief Bernard or it's Chief Butler, they all need to be equally funded and correctly funded. What I heard tonight was the chief, quite responsibly, had to sacrifice training because mission first. He shouldn't be in that position. Where do we live? Hospitals are going in. We've got the airport. We've got all this development going on. Londonderry, New Hampshire's public safety chief, and I include public works in that, our public safety department shouldn't be making these sacrifices. They just shouldn't. They just, in no way, shape, or form, should he be coming up here and articulately saying that he's had to make some changes because, I don't know why, because one of his guys got hurt going through a door? What's going to happen when a snowplow breaks down? We're not going to plow the street? Of course not. This guy's going to make sure it gets done. This is Londonderry, New Hampshire. This isn't some backwoods town where people leave in the house to go to the bathroom. There's plenty of development here. There's plenty of tax dollars. Just adjust it. But that enrages me. Because when I call 911, I expect these guys are going to show up properly funded, with good morale, with good training, feeling good support, which I know he gives them 24/7. I'm not questioning him at all. But does he have all the tools he needs? Probably not. And does the highway department? Probably not. Who does? I mean, get the abacus out. Rework the math. It's a problem. It's a problem. All this development that's going in, listen, I'm just a kid from Boston. There'd be a hell of a lot of mitigation going on in this town if it was down in Boston. It'd be a hell of a lot. General contractor coming in to be building a new police station for somebody as part of that project and calling it mitigation or community service dollars. What are we doing? What are we doing here? No public safety chief in this town should be making any sacrifices at the department level that either the citizens are going to pay for or the safety of their members. That can't happen. So step up and make sure it doesn't happen. Because people have had enough. But that's enraging to even hear that. Can't happen. This is Londonderry, New Hampshire. This is not the ghetto. Fix it during the budget season. And if he needs more help, add 10 cops to it or add 5 more school resource officers. Does anybody really think we're going to, I want to keep some money in my pocket, so why don't we just pull staffing, which he would never do, pull staffing from an elementary school? Do you think people think like this? Nobody thinks like this in this town. That's why they move here. That's it.
Anybody else? No? All right. So excited to be last.
Good evening.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate that. Give me a second. Sorry. So, good evening. My name is Brian Young. I reside at 14 Fieldstone Drive in Londonderry. I also come to you tonight speaking on behalf of the members of Local 3160 as their vice president. I have 50 members in my local, and I'm sure everybody in this room has noticed we have approximately 40 people standing outside in the hallway waiting to hear what happens at this meeting. So, first and foremost, I would like to ensure the citizens and visitors to the town of Londonderry that we are honored to be able to respond, to assist you when you need help. And regardless of what is going on here, we will continue to respond to every emergency and every call for service with the utmost of professionalism, because that is our job, and that is what we have committed to do. So, we've heard a lot of support tonight, and I want to say thank you to every single person that's here, every single taxpayer that's gotten the nerve up to stand up here, because this is intimidating. It's super fun, too. So, on March 12th, 2024, the town of Londonderry held its annual voting. Article 15 was the warrant article that we are all here speaking about. There was 2,784 votes for and 1,426 votes against. That was for a total of 7.7 cents per thousand added on to the tax rate, to a total of $495,000 to bring up the department to 13 members per battalion. Now, the verbiage of the warrant article, I believe, contains the word intent. The intent is to bring it up to 13 per battalion. Those members didn't start until September 16th of 2024. So that's 2.5 months that those salaries were not used. So there's a little bit of money. Also, firefighter Carrier retired in August of 2024. There's another month of salary that needs to be used. We have a member out on workers' comp. Now, I believe that the town gets reimbursement from Primex for his salary. There's some more money that can be used. So there's some solutions, not just a problem, but some solutions to this problem. Now, if we want to get into comparing for things, because I know that the town manager feels like he needs to be fiscally responsible, which I appreciate because I am a taxpayer, the overall budget was supported in the lesser figure by 2,812 votes to 1,395 votes. The difference between the default budget and the lesser funded budget was $41,824. Now, these taxpayers behind me that are showing support because they felt like they stood behind a cause and they felt like their safety was important, realized that over here in this budget, this is a good number for us, but we want to be at 13 members per battalion because that's what's important. It's their safety. It's my safety. It's my ability to go see my kids. So a little history lesson because Chief Bernard, preached a little bit, so I'm going to preach a little bit too. NFPA 1710 recommends that we get 15 firefighters to a residential house fire within 8 minutes. For the most part, the town of Londonderry can do that with 12 firefighters in about 8 minutes. Geographically, it's a little challenging. We use a little bit of automatic aid to fill in the gap, but it's still something. So we think, and I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to see this at least talked about at the next meeting, maybe as an agenda item so we can get some answers to some questions. One, what is the town manager's plan to get the department up to 13 members per battalion within this current fiscal year? I think that's important, and I think that we're owed an answer to that question. Two, maybe he should find the money for a study to see what the fire department and the police department should be staffed at for a community of this size with the risk hazards that we have. What are we going to do when 30 Main Street catches on fire or the Baldwins catches on fire? I can tell you that NFPA 1710 says it's a much bigger number than 15 that needs to be there to mitigate that problem. So I want to see answers to these questions. Now, some long-term solutions, because we're about problem solving, not about just pointing out the problems or arguing on Facebook. New Hampshire Revised Statute 31:95-H allows for the creation of a revolving account for the fire department. There's a lot more legal mumbo-jumbo in there that I am not qualified to talk about. However, this might be something that instead of taking and putting our ambulance revenue into the general fund, maybe that's something we put in to replace the apparatus. The other question that came up in some of the discussions I've had recently is creating a town-wide sick bank, if you will. So that way, when one of our departments, the fire department, the police department, we get hit with a catastrophic staffing shortage, such as somebody being deployed, somebody being hurt and out for a long time, somebody suffering from cancer, maybe we should put some money into that account so it goes in the default budget. It's not the fire department's problem. It's not the police department's problem. It's the town supporting our own. Some solutions to problems. So, most importantly, we're up here trying to find solutions, not just point out problems. But one of the solutions is to honor the will of the taxpayers and show them that what they asked for is important. And show that you honor the 50 members of Local 3160 and you respect their service. And hopefully, we can find a solution. I look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair. So Justin and I spent about 3-4 hours on Friday going over a lot of the different financial issues and different avenues, how we can try and combat the funding issues. And certainly, yes, a lot of the issues go back to the SB2, as the chief had mentioned earlier. And thank you, Brian, for bringing up different kind of solutions. And we need to go through the next 2 months to develop how can we develop the right path forward so we can hopefully fix not just today, but the next 10, 20, 30 years so that we don't keep coming into this financial issue that we are at right now with funding not just for the fire department, but for all the departments across the board. And, whether it be a trust fund, an expendable maintenance trust fund, or another fund that we can potentially find that works with the state laws. And certainly with how the different RSAs work and with DRA, sometimes they can be a little tricky to work in the right way. And so I think part of the issue as well is, that the chief brought up, is we are very limited with our form of government. And when we are set with a certain budget that we pass, unfortunately, we are stuck at that number. And we can't just pull money out of the undesignated fund balance unless we go to a federal judge and ask for emergency funding from our UFB in the middle of the year. We can't just pull the money out. That's not how it works, unfortunately. So I think we need to look at some different solutions and do some different brainstorming and work with the state upon what is the right mechanism so that we can move forward over the next 2 to 3 months before we go to the next election in March.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else before I close public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may.
Okay.
So there were a couple things. I wasn't here, unfortunately, last time. I was trying to take a vacation with this stuff, and then I'd heard about Bo on vacation, and that immediately brought my mind back to here. I watched that video, watched everyone's comments. I mean, there's one thing that's crystal clear. You know, Bo Butler is a hero. That guy, I mean, you just talk to him, and he absolutely puts his heart on the line. I know there's not a person in here at the fire department that would not say the same thing. You cannot meet that man and talk to him. He comes from a great family. They have strong roots in this community, and absolutely, he is a hero. I don't want that to interfere with any of the rest of this. Now, when it comes to managing budgets, the question was asked, and you had asked the question, you know, what did we vote for? Did this get put in? So in the same, because I checked out all this stuff, because again, not aware until we got back. I quickly had to get up to speed on what this situation is, a couple days behind it. The same mechanism that every warrant article votes for went through. That money was put in the budget. Was it the right size and the right amount when it was put on the ballot? That may not have been. And that's one of the things where I hate how we play politics. People say in this room, I hate politics. I hate politics. Sitting up here. It's stupid. But when you get something where you have a warrant article, and I've seen these tricks before I got up here, and I guess I'll see some of these in the budget season, and I don't want to see it, is let's make that number low enough so the voters vote for it. But is it enough? How can this community honestly vote for firefighters without the right amount attached to it? And then we get in this situation where, well, do we not have enough? Do we have enough? Which do we vote for? Maybe some people voted for the amount. Maybe some people voted. We get into this, and it's a mess, and it shouldn't be a mess. But the next part was, will this community be covered? Are there citizens in danger? People come into this room, and you know, I'm sure there's some people that have got concerns on their mind, like, are we going to be taken care of? And I'm glad, you know, Ryan spoke up here. No, our fire department will take care of this community. This community is covered, and people don't have anything to worry about. And it's going to get taken care of. They're professionals. They work at that. The other part that I hate about this whole situation, anything inevitably becomes political. And that's a shame when it comes to stuff like this. And that's where I don't want Bo's struggling with this, for his commitment to his people, to get mixed up in dollars and cents. And now we've moved on to that portion of it. And I really don't like that got mixed up in this. Inevitably, money gets mixed up, emotion gets mixed up, and we need to do the right thing for this. I went and I checked on the budget to make sure the mechanisms are there, because if we have another fire chief, are we going to run into this situation? We have ways, and Chief Bernard, and I've talked to him about this, and he knows how to manage this and get this through. And we can work with, you know, whoever sits in that chair, we can work with them to get this through to make sure that this problem does not happen. We're going to get on top of this. We don't direct personnel per charter. We don't direct department heads. So that's also part of the being unaware. I hate that. I hate that in my job, being unaware of things. But, you know, we're going to get on top of this. We'll do the best I can. If you have questions about the budget and you want to get specifics, nobody really wants to get in specifics. I know that. But if you want to go over the numbers, give me a call. This is something that's concerning. Let's just get the facts through it. Let's walk it through it. You can dismiss me as a dirty politician making a speech, but I'm honestly just trying to tell you the best I can so we can get through this as a community together. Budget season's coming up in a couple weeks, so just hang in there. This is a rough situation. We're going to get through this as a town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Can we have Bo Butler back as our chief?
We're not here to discuss that tonight. So, there's a lot of things said tonight. A lot of good points. Some great points. A lot of ideas. A lot of collaboration. A lot of support. A lot of love. A lot of passion. A lot of fire. No pun intended. I appreciate it. I appreciated the targeted comments. I appreciated the support for Bo. I'm committed, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the council, I'm committed to doing what's right. We have a process for a reason. We have a process we have to follow. I want to follow that process. Regardless of how we feel, November 2nd is when we start our process. And I ask you to come and help us collaborate so we can follow that process. Because yes, your vote matters. Your opinion matters. Your ideas matter. And it's not about me. It's not thrown out. We all heard you. We heard every single comment that everyone said. And it matters.
Can you answer to me how it got dispersed then?
I don't understand your question.
If we voted it in and now all this happened, I just want to know why the vote didn't count. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking on behalf of
So-
everybody in here agrees with what I'm saying. I just want to know if we all go to vote again and everybody wants to vote everybody out of these seats, is that gonna hold?
Yes. Justin, I'm going to have our finance director address that question because he is the expert on it.
I would love it.
Thank you.
So in the operating budget, we had budgeted for 43 firefighters. The additional firefighters from the warrant article would bring us 13, would put us at 4. Right now, we currently have 47 budgeted firefighter positions, and 46 of which are filled. The one that is currently not is the firefighter that retired in August, which from my discussions with fire administration will be filled in December. So they're there, they're hired, they're on board. There's one that we're missing currently.
Okay, so you guys have a plan to put somebody else in there?
From my understanding, that individual is currently going through the process, and we should have them on board December, January. I can't speak to that. I'm not.
Right, because we don't know what's going to happen by then. Anything
Correct.
could happen.
Come on.
Can we?
Oh, sorry, it's not my mic.
Can we?
So-
Brian, before.
Okay.
I'm fine with allowing Brian to talk. I just don't want to get in a back and forth.
No, I just have a very quick question. So you said your budgeting was for 43 firefighters prior to? And then adding 4 more puts us to 47, correct?
Correct.
What is 13 times 4?
I know it's 48.
Okay. So, but that's one short of 47.
Can we please?
So please,
I'm glad you
enlighten me,
asked.
please, because I'd like to know how 13 times 4 doesn't actually get us 13 times 4.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked.
Can we please keep the crosstalk in the room down, please? Thank you.
So the fire administration had determined that if you remember previously, you had 1 chief.
Correct.
Currently, how many do you have?
2.
So previously, no, currently, sorry.
All right.
Including Bo, how many do you have?
We have 1 fire chief, 1 assistant chief, 1 deputy chief.
Correct. So there's 3.
Yep.
Previously, it was determined that a second deputy chief was required and
Okay.
needed temporarily. When Bo took over, he made the determination that that position needed to stay. Initially, that position was supposed to drop back down to a firefighter and a part-time administrative assistant to help with the administrative work. I believe that the fire administration knows how to manage the fire budget better, not fire budget, fire personnel better than I would, so we defaulted to his understanding on that. I wrote the warrant article
on purpose, so that way, should we have the ability to add the funds to get you back that person, with the approval of the town council, we would be able to.
Okay.
So that was the intent. That's why it's 13. It doesn't specifically state 4.
Perfect. Can we get the town's attorney interpretation on the warrant article to make sure that the math is square? Because
I don't know what you mean by that.
well, the 13 per battalion, that doesn't reference anything in administration. And to the town managers.
I guess the other question I have is, why does the deputy chief not count towards the line?
So just, and
Gentlemen.
Okay, that's fair. It was a legitimate question.
2 seconds.
That was turned into one of the deputy chief positions.
So, and then to the town manager's point, that in his rebuttal, if you will, he posted that we have 1 fire chief, 1 assistant chief, and 2 deputy chiefs.
1 deputy chief.
That's not what his post.
Oh, okay.
So, I would like some clarification, please, from a taxpayer standpoint and from a member of Local 3160 about how we're going to get to the 13 members per battalion, as well as keep the administration that the town manager says that we have. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Shall we move on? Appointments, reappointments. So appointments to up to 2 alternates on the Heritage Commission. Term ends 12/31/2024.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to wait until the
Yeah,
next?
we'll wait a couple minutes.
Thank you.
If everyone who wishes to exit, if you could please just close the door. Mr. Douglas, would you mind closing that? Oh, thank you. Please continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this temporary appointment to end the end of December for the Heritage Commission is due to the fact that because of the current role of the Heritage Commission's position in relation to the planning board and their role in consulting site plans, providing advice and feedback, there comes a need to often call special meetings this time of year, and it can be very difficult to get a quorum for the Heritage Commission because they generally only meet every other month.
Mm-hmm.
So both the state law and the town charter permit up to 5 alternates on the Heritage Commission. There's currently 3. So while we examine this, the need for this many alternates long-term, we are asking that you approve the appointment of Derek Deanna to the Heritage Commission until December 30th, 2024, in order to help support them during the time when they need to call quorums more frequently.
Do we have any other applicant?
Because this is a new position. It's not a position that was posted. We do have 1 person interested in the Heritage Commission, but unfortunately they would have to recuse themselves from one of the cases that is coming up in front of the Heritage Commission in the next few months. So we're still having that person on the list for potential appointment to that full list of positions that are open. But aside from that person, we have no other applicants for the Heritage Commission at this time other than sitting members.
Okay.
Is the person here today?
Derek is not here today, no.
Okay.
He is currently the vice chair of the Reverend Morrison Meeting House Study Committee. He has a background in building and both, he's a longtime Londonderry resident, but he has no connections to anything coming up in front of the Heritage Commission whatsoever. So he has an understanding of both historic properties from his work on the Reverend Morrison Commission, and from his professional background, he has an understanding of the building and development process, which would help him fill this temporary spot.
As I know, it's hard to get sometimes full members for a quorum for meetings. I think this would be really helpful to be able to expand out to 5 members and having an emergency appointment for this person, as it looks like we'll be running into a bit of meetings coming up to the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I remember Derek from his interview for the Reverend Morrison Meeting House Committee. I've also
Can't hear you.
Sorry. I remember Derek from the Reverend Morrison Meeting House interviews too, and I liked his background then. I think it was good for that. I watched some of those meetings too as well, and how he's conducted himself as vice chair of that committee, so I think we'd be lucky to have him.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
So
good.
council, do I have a motion to appoint Derek Deanna for this one alternate position on the Heritage Commission, and his term will end December 31st, 2024?
So
moved.
Second.
Motion from Ted, a second from Sean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you. Folks, please, we do need one other person, which is extremely important. So those that are out there, if you're able to commit your time till the end of December, it'd be greatly appreciated. New business, budget season information, budget updates. Mr. Campo. Sir, good evening.
In the agenda, you will find the budget schedule calendar for this year. As you heard today, there will be increases in various departments that we'll be requesting, and that will be up to the council to determine how to proceed forward with. I wanted to make sure that this calendar was out there, so should anyone have any objections to it from the council, they're able to state it, and we can make the adjustments prior to getting too far into the season.
Thank you. Is this calendar posted on the town website? Can we get it posted soon and also on the calendar as well?
As long as you guys don't have any objection.
I think that we're going to probably need more meetings.
So what I did is I took last year's and I essentially mirrored what last year's was and the year before. But if we need more meetings, we can add more meetings. That's not a problem.
Now, right now, do you have them lined up with town council meetings, or are they just...
They should be lined up with town council meetings right now.
Now, in the past, when I was elected many years ago, we would occasionally have Thursday night meetings or another Wednesday night meeting to be able to go into things. And I think that depending upon how November 2nd goes, we may want to expand out our meetings in November and December.
That would be a decision for you guys. I am on board with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other feedback on that from the council?
So, Mr. Chair, if we could get a consensus on these dates so we can publish them. This is your last meeting before the November 2nd
Yes.
deadline. So we can always add to it later and add additional meetings. These are the ones that are statutorily required. So if we can get the okay to go ahead with these, it would be great.
Council, what say you?
I would say for the statutorial process, yes, but as long as we're able to amend and add more meetings. Then
So
yes.
we have done that in the past, as you mentioned. We've added more meetings when certain items came up or certain information wasn't available at that time, but it would have been available later on.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we can do that as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with putting
Ron?
this on.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
The only other thing I want to add is for the public, citizen petition warrant articles are due by the second Tuesday in January. If it's a bond, it is the Friday before.
Can you state those again? Because I can't. hear you.
Citizen petition warrant articles are due the second Tuesday in January.
Yep.
If it requires a bond, it is the Friday before. And for the citizen petition, you need 25 registered voters to sign it.
So this.
We request that you please send them to us, just because we can have the lawyers look at it, make sure that DRA is okay with it and that it is a legal warrant article.
So just for clarification purposes, we're saying citizens petitions without a bond need to be submitted by January 14th, which is the second Tuesday
Correct.
And then if it requires a bond, it has to be the Friday prior, which is the 10th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's encouraged that they're submitted prior to that to allow.
So we encourage you to submit it prior if you would like it to be reviewed by our legal team.
Okay.
As well as we recommend getting more than 25 just in case for whatever reason some of them cannot be verified.
And 25 registered voters
yep.
signatures for any citizens petition.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions from the council?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll have plenty for Justin on November 2nd.
I look forward to it.
All right. Reservation rental of town hall meeting space in outdoor town properties. Who's presenting tonight? Good evening.
Good evening.
You know, I tried to up my attire game, and Doug just beats me every time anyway.
I was in gym shorts earlier. So.
I can't hear you. I got to turn up my miracle here and then close it.
Oh, I can speak louder. So we're here in front of you today, just like when I came in front of you for the right to know policy. I'm going to back off the microphone if I'm going to talk louder. At the beginning of the development process of this initiative, rather than just at the approval stage, because we would like the input of both the council and the public on this process as we move forward. I'm going to turn it over to Doug, and then I'm going to address a couple of other things at the end. So, it's all his fault.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Cheerson mentioned, this was brought to the town's attention probably a little over a year ago, driven by resident request as a potential need for the community. So, which is why we're starting to look at this as we progress forward coming up to fiscal year 2025. The town overall is probably overdue for an update on current rental agreements, specifically those of the town common. If anybody's seen that, it's about a 8, 9, 10-page paper. It seems to expand every year, and it's just a lot of information that can probably be condensed a little bit more so. But this will also get Londonderry overall in line with what surrounding communities are doing in terms of usage of their own town space and facilities. It's a way to provide additional expansive services to town residents, local groups, for-profits, non-profits, for use of town space. So not only town common, but town hall. Even looking so far as the task force is looking at the Lions Hall, how could that space be better utilized as well? So nothing has been determined, but things that can actually be looked at as part of this overall agreement as we move forward with some of those policies as well. So it will also, the new agreement and policy, as I had mentioned, the current one we have for the town common is very large in terms of how many pages it is. It's dense for somebody that is trying to apply just for usage of space for a birthday party or concert or anything along those lines. So this will help to actually streamline the current applications into a more consolidated format with all the options clearly outlined, as well as designated renter classifications that are on there. As part of the renter classifications, we'll also have a fee schedule built in as a means of overall offsetting maintenance costs, utilities of a building, and the user revenue. It's a way to support facility maintenance currently funded by taxpayers. So that's something we're looking at as this agreement kind of comes more into focus. As you can probably see from the rough draft that was probably available, we've been putting together the final agreement to look at as a way that the processes that will also go along with that and how that will be conducted. Always going to be keeping in mind that there's going to be feedback throughout the process that we need to address and to continue to steer the way that agreement and policy will come into play if it does, in fact, go into implementation. We did discuss delaying it to the beginning of probably 2025, just because we're looking for necessary changes that are going to be there and updates, keeping in mind, again, not only the feedback that happens throughout the process, but also making sure the correct systems are in place. As mentioned, usage of town hall meeting rooms, make sure that the safety and security is there in all of those spaces, common spaces, and getting in line with IT in order to get that done. So that's going to take time before any of that gets done after implementation of any policy as well. But this also can be used as a template for further rental agreements of town-owned and operated space. So whether that's something that's in existence or something that will come to be, it's something that can be adapted and amended as needed. And I know it's been brought up too, in terms of people that have used space, how will that be purposed? How will the town deem who can use what, when, and where? There will be added clause where the town will have the right to waive fees at their discretion. So we'll look at that. Some of the other business that goes along with that, I'm going to hand over to Kirsten so she can get into some of those better nuances. But that's just an update on our end of what we're working on.
So one of the things that you'll see here is the requirement that when people rent these facilities for their exclusive use to have insurance. Currently, as we move towards increased professionalization in this town, increased services for the wide variety of our residents, accidents happen. Our insurance company would very much like us to take this approach where we ask people using our facilities who are not town employees or volunteers who are covered by our policy to take out this insurance in case something happens. There's plenty of policies available online, or our insurer, Primex, does offer something called a TULIP policy, which is event-specific insurance. So moving forward, if we do move forward with letting outside groups use town, particularly spaces inside of town hall, that insurance requirement becomes particularly important, because you're not going to like to see our IT director's face if one of these screens gets broken, for example. And as Christine mentioned earlier, that she did submit some comments, and thank you. I always appreciate your feedback. You know that. One of her questions was why charge when people already pay? And that's right. Taxpayers do pay for this facility for the business of administering the town. But private use of public facilities, whether it's for a homeowners association, a birthday party, whatever that is, it does incur additional costs that are better assigned to the actual user rather than the tax base at large. People have asked for this policy to put into place so that they can hold their club meetings here, that they can hold scout meetings in the Sunnycrest Room, for example. But as we put these policies into place to extend access to people who don't have connections to the town administration, it does incur additional costs, such as staffing, security, utilities, and maintenance. And the best way I can create an analogy between this policy is what we do at the drop-off station, right? Everybody gets trash pickup. Everybody gets recycle pickup. Some things you bring to the drop-off station are free. But the things that incur an additional cost to the town, you pay for them. It's the same idea, right? So all the town committees will still be able to meet here. You want to go hang out in the common and walk your dog? Absolutely. But if you'd like to use it for exclusive use for a larger party and guarantee you have use of it that day for 50 people, that incurs staffing time, that incurs maintenance time. And so that is where this comes in. And the other reason to include a charge is really simply to give some people skin in the game. Even if you include a nominal charge, so not all that much money, it encourages people to show up or communicate that they're not going to show up to you. If you don't have any charge at all, that's when you get people scheduling something, canceling it, not showing up, and then we put the staff hours, the time, the setup into it, and then it just doesn't happen. And it prevents the use by somebody else. So you notice the costs here are very modest. We're not looking at this as a massive revenue generating operation. We're looking at it as a service that we can provide to the town at a fair cost that doesn't create a burden on the other taxpayers. And we already rent out the senior center, and it does pretty well. I can promise you I have not talked to Erin, and Erin has no intention of signing on with this for the library. So I guess that's any questions?
Please. So for the Boy Scout groups that come here already, or Girl Scout groups, would they now be required to have a $1 million insurance policy?
We don't currently have use of town facilities in this building for non-town groups. We don't have scout groups here. We don't have HOAs using our rooms. It's not happening right now.
Okay.
So this is actually opening up a new service.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And liability policies, we have the right to waive those as well. It depends on the activity, whether you need it and how much it is. And actually, I know the $1 million liability is a really scary number, but I did this for a very long time at the Historical Society, and it's not that expensive.
What is not expensive? If you, ballpark, I know you.
It can range from $40 to
per year.
No, per event. But again, that's where and this is where these conversations are valuable. Do we need it for scout meetings, sitting around a table? No. But if somebody is having a birthday party in here, do we need it? probably. So
Of course. Yeah, of course.
they can run it up to $300 plus if you have alcohol.
Two questions. Who's going to maintain the schedule? Who will be responsible for that?
Me.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And then someone that's holding a not-for-profit, trying to raise money for a charity, having an event on the town common, will this person have to buy insurance, or will they have to, I guess, pay this fee also? I'm asking for someone that's reached out to me.
Are you talking about the veterans
I am.
thing? Dennis is all set. I'm
Okay,
saying it on the
okay.
record here.
Just-
The veterans concert is all set for next year. Dennis, if you're watching,
No.
Doug emailed him the other day.
Yeah.
We're good for that. Christmas
Now
on
on video.
Common with the Rotary,
Right.
also all set.
Okay.
Those type of events, we're not looking to capitalize off any of that. And honestly, we consider ourselves a co-sponsor for those insurance
yeah.
purposes of the veterans benefit, and Rotary,
Yeah.
who does Christmas on the Common. A lot of these organizations, actually, where you bring up Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they already carry certificates of liability.
Excellent.
So a lot of these things won't be an issue. And I know it can be daunting, and the idea of charging a lot of money is not what we're looking to do.
I think the insurance thing was the part that was daunting.
It is. It is.
So-
Another one on
yeah.
the list is even school-sponsored events.
Okay.
That's something I think we use their facilities, they use ours, so there's usually a passing of insurance, but it's a matter of that's part of the agreement. There's no user fees they're passed between those two.
And I think, as Kristen had mentioned, you can get it on a per event basis. You're not trying to get it on for a whole entire year if you don't need that, as she had mentioned.
As I keep saying in front of this body and all other ones belonging to the town, I'm everybody's favorite compliance killjoy. And when I start talking about insurance, everybody's eyes start closing. But it is the way that we protect the people renting and the taxpayer all at the same time. And now that I've put everybody in the audience to sleep.
I just have two other quick comments. I like the idea of a security deposit. That's good. I like that. The one other suggestion I would have is for residents that want to have, say, 6 or 8 people meet, I wouldn't charge them. If they want to get a small group together just to talk in the Sunnycrest room, maybe you have an exception for that, and that doesn't cost anything. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, no. Again, we appreciate it. Any feedback we can get, definitely parts that we can look at for group sizes, as well as just fees in general, what they're going to be for each different group. So
And this is just double check because I want to be a killjoy too, so you're not left alone. But I'm sure the liquor complies with the state RSA when using liquor in a facility like this. If we have something like that.
Yes, and we haven't gotten into the details about alcohol yet. I am disinclined to think that it would be permitted in this building. It would be more for the outdoor venues.
Yes.
But then we have Brian. And if you think Brian Johnson is very good at helping us with those regulations, as is Nick Codner. So
good.
We can definitely work with that.
Quick question about your chart here for the rental fees, the 4, 8, and 12 hours. Is that an additional cost on top of what is above?
no. So each one, when submitting the application, you would be selecting how long your event is going to be. So that would be what your fee would be.
Oh, is that primarily for the town common in Lions Hall?
In Lions Hall.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Can we change that to the Reverend Moran meeting house? We should just be consistent in all our town communications.
Yes. And I guess probably be above the 4-hour line there. It should probably state for usage of town common and the Reverend Morrison Meeting House. Maybe just extend that column so that people understand, so that how it looks on here, it looks like it's an additional fee on top of, say, for example, however it's written. It just seems slightly off, that's all.
And to Christine's point during public comment, we definitely need to include definitions of who fits in what category. So thank you for that.
Well, and as well, I mean, if you are a nonprofit, you can provide the documentation that you are a nonprofit. So there's proper documentation from the state level that you can provide if you are a nonprofit.
So, are you all set?
I'm all set.
Yep.
Good.
All right.
Ask a question. No, I can't ask a question, right?
Well, this isn't a public hearing right now, so I'm sure this will come up at some point, right? Because this is just a draft.
Are you going to vote on it now?
No.
It's first reading.
No, thank you. My biggest thing is I just want to. I want to make sure, you know, the activities and the organizations that are giving into this community are treated fair.
Mm-hmm.
And having an idea of how we do that is important to me. You know, like as many of the council said, you know, the veterans, blues or jazz, sorry, Dennis.
Blues Festival.
Blues Fest, thank you. The Rotary, you know, other organizations that pour so much into this town. I want to make sure that, you know, we're taking care of them. And if there's a way that we can navigate and have a more clear defined way to do that, that's important to me as one of 5. How you work that out, how you shuffle that out, you guys are smarter than me, so I'll let you guys figure that out, but that is important to me.
Mm-hmm. I think they can, you know, you can break that down as a designated class of how that fits in. Again, I mentioned kind of the clause, the town's discretion. There can be also a list of groupings that fall under that, and you know, and that can be malleable as well as to who's on and off that list. So there's different, like you said, there's different ways that we can get creative with it.
Right. What about like a and this is more of a discussion to the council, like non-resident versus resident fee and stuff like that. I think, and Christine Perez brought up some great points about, you know, the residents and stuff. Can you talk a little, you know, and the fees and stuff and paying taxes and everything? Can you help me understand that a little bit more? Better.
Well, Chad, I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
So, say if you wanted to rent the splash pad in Derry, there's a certain price for Derrytown residents and non-Derrytown residents to rent out the pavilions at the splash pad. So I think they're trying to look at the same kind of example here for our facilities.
Okay. And again, this is the first reading, so.
Not even the first reading.
Not even the first reading, just the first draft.
Right, and as I mentioned, you know, if you're looking at even surrounding towns utilizing similar space, there is always a resident, non-resident component to that typically, and it's, you know, sometimes it's up to double just because it's for the use of residents, it's to be affordable, it's to be there, but it's for offsetting of those additional maintenance and utility costs, as Cheerson had mentioned.
All right. When is this going to come before us again? Do you have an idea of that?
We do not have a solid date on
Sure,
that
you'll
yet.
let me know when to put it on the agenda. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council?
Nope. No.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Public hearings. I'll accept the motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
from Ted, second from Ron. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Town Manager, sir, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. This is, we've talked about this before. This is simply a registration requirement allowing us to track whether a facility or a residence is being used for short-term rental. It defines short-term rental and requires an emergency contact that can be available within 60 minutes if there's an issue. The other thing it does is it makes the owner responsible for essentially what's happening at the property. This has gone through legal review, and it is the opinion is that it complies with the law. There's nothing illegal about it. There are other communities that are doing this around the state at this point in time, but I would say that this is kind of the lightest touch in terms of a potential short-term rental ordinance. Obviously, you can do a lot more in terms of regulating, inspecting, and what have you. But this really is the lowest possible level of regulation of an ordinance in this area, and it's responsive, as we've discussed in the past, to complaints that we've gotten, and the fact that we think this is not going away, that this is likely to be something that, you know, pops up every now and then, and we want to make sure that we have the tools to be able to respond to that, but not in an overbearing way. This did go to the planning board per the council's consensus. And the planning board's feedback was generally positive. They expressed support for the registration requirement and felt that this would aid in public safety responses to these residences if necessary. The board may have an appetite for more regulation down the road, but that's certainly something that was just discussed conceptually.
But there's a process
There's
to
a
do
process,
that.
correct.
With notice, first
Correct.
first reading, second reading, public hearings
Correct.
and such.
And I think that based on the discussion and based on where we are, the frequency or infrequency really of these complaints, this is going to do the trick. The planning board did suggest that 180 days, 180-day deferred effective date was probably too much, that we could publicize this and start enforcing it within 120 days. So that purpose of that delayed implementation is just to make sure that the public is aware of it. Obviously, if people aren't aware of it, we're not going to ding them for not registering. It'll be an educate first, enforce later type of thing. So,
Mike, who did you say that came from?
That came from the planning board.
Planning board?
Yep.
And what about code enforcement? Did you throw that by them, their opinion on that?
Yeah, they generally have come to me over the past couple of years, not complaining, but expressing the fact that we don't have really a lot of tools to be able to deal with some of these situations. And I was involved in a particularly thorny one that I think some members of the council were involved in as well, trying to navigate that. And it was a case where there wasn't a lot that we had in terms of tools in the toolbox to be able to respond to those issues in real time.
Gotcha. I guess I meant about the notice time period.
Oh, no, I haven't specifically asked code enforcement what they think about the notice. I mean, I really think that the notice is sort of an academic exercise. I mean, because like I said, we're not, whether it's 120 days or 180 days, we're not going to be dinging people who might just be unaware of it because it's new.
Are we going to be, I guess, sending notices or reaching out to the ones that are currently on VRBO or the other home rental sites?
I don't envision such an active process. I think that we will publicize it maybe through different avenues, but I think that that's probably a little bit more than is needed, as well as an additional burden on staff resources. But certainly, if there was an issue, that might be a process that we would undertake.
Interesting.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's interesting. I mean, I think if we know that there's homes that are out there that are currently being rented.
Correct. So if we had that knowledge, but I think the difference is we wouldn't go like seeking that knowledge, right? We wouldn't just go and
knocking on doors.
Well, yeah, that or looking at websites. It's something that we've addressed in the conservation arena as well, where if a conservation encroachment comes to our attention, we're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
We have an active monitoring program that's pretty robust, but we're not going to, utilize the GIS, for instance, to go out and see. We want to have, like the police department does, have a good relationship with the community, and even with those who may be subject to regulation or enforcement.
Okay. So, anything else from the council before I go to the public?
I got a couple questions.
All right, I'm going to run the restroom.
That's fine. Mike, in section 4, we talk about within 60 minutes requested.
Yes.
What's the penalty if someone doesn't comply within 60 minutes? Say doesn't comply within 24 hours. Just doesn't respond at all.
That's a good question. I mean, I think that I think that it could be a violation of this ordinance because failing to comply with the ordinance would be a violation. I don't think that I can't envision a situation where, well, I guess I can envision a situation where that becomes an issue if somebody doesn't answer in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But I think the rule is going to be one of reasonableness. And, again, if it's happening in the middle of the night, I think that the idea is to make sure that we have a good line of communication.
Right.
There will be a form that's prepared by the code enforcement department as well that will take some biographical information, maybe an email address, so that people understand what their obligations are and maybe are expecting to hear from us if there's an issue. But it's a good question, Councilor Dunn, that there isn't a specified penalty. And again, similar to what we were discussing just a minute ago, I think it would be a reasonableness analysis. And If it's happening like again and again and again and again, then maybe it's an enforcement issue. But if it happens once, then we would seek to educate and bring the people into compliance.
Okay.
Well, I think to answer the question, it comes down to Section 6.
Correct.
And, violation of this would be $1,000.
Correct. So it by its own terms, it would be violating the ordinance or not complying with the ordinance is a violation. But like I said, the goal here is not to be writing people, tickets for not complying with this. I think that even in the cases that we've dealt with where there is a significant enforcement issue, the approach has been, hey, if this continues, we're going to have a problem. Let's work together to resolve this.
And then, Mike, who's going to keep track of the list?
This will be the building department.
Okay, building department.
Yep. And they're set up to do that. I think one of some of the feedback that we received, I can't remember if it was from the council or from the planning board, was could we do this electronically? I think that there are easy ways to set up an electronic form and a database.
Yeah, we talked about the.
So it really doesn't need to be. And then I guess the last thing I would just flag for the board's consideration is if you do pass this, should there be a fee, and what should the fee be?
That was my next question. Is we had debated back and forth the fee, so that's for me. I think the fee needs to be very minimal.
Yeah,
no.
Because you want people to participate in this.
Right.
If it's too great, they're not going to participate.
Yeah.
So, for me to support this, the fee's got to be very minimal.
And we do have
dollar amount.
Like I said, $10 the last meeting.
Yeah, and we
So I
do
think
we do
some,
have
you know,
permits that don't carry a fee with them
Right.
at all. Like I think assembly permits and certain live entertainment permits
Yeah.
do not have a fee. So it really is the council's consensus. Or
So I have two comments on this. One, I think the 60-minute is a little stringent, and I get that, we can apply reasonableness, but a lot of times when getting into the law, I just don't like it. Like the middle of the night scenario, that could be hard. And I mean, if somebody goes into 65, I get that we don't necessarily enforce it, but I think that's really tight. I know even like a system down scenario at work where we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not always 60 minutes that we can get a response to something of that consequence,
Sure.
much less these aren't professional businesses. They're people renting out homes where 60 minutes that almost requires a professional manager hired
Correct.
for a situation like that.
I think if the council, if the consensus of the council is that I think it's a good point. We can certainly strike that
I mean, I
requirement
think
or
4
provision.
hours is, personally, I think a 4 hour is appropriate. But if you're what were you
I think
saying?
really
I
what we're trying to
interrupted
do
you,
is get a phone
sorry.
number, get a contact, so that we can make contact if needed. I know that the police department has records and information, but I think this is the most efficient way to get an up-to-date contact information that will allow us to communicate with somebody who's doing this.
Well, part of that, in order to define that, I think we've got to define what we're trying to do with this. Because I started thinking about this since last time. And so, really this is to take care of unruly people who are renting a short-term rental so we can get a hold of them and get in touch with them. But I'm trying to wonder and this is a question, not a statement. I'm wondering, if a 21-year-old coming home from college has a party at a parent's house, do we know from our police how to get a hold of the homeowner when we get to something? And if we have all that information, then I'm wondering if we're duplicating efforts here. Because there are other scenarios where there's people who are in a home who are causing disturbance that aren't a short-term rental. And I want to make sure we're using all the same mechanisms,
Sure.
using them as effectively as possible,
That's a really
and
good
reducing
question.
the bureaucracy as much as possible.
I think probably the police department would be best equipped to speak to that. I don't know. I could tell you that I believe they have certain records. I don't think the records are always up to date, in my experience, but.
Thank you.
Chief, good evening again.
Thank you.
Here we are. So we have had some calls in the past on this type of concern that other neighbors have had. Our records management system is as good as the information that we put in.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have contact with somebody, obviously it's in there.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have means to find anybody. So, I mean, depending what it is, so, but we can. And if there's an investigation or there's a problem that we need to find the homeowner, we can. And with a situation that had rose last year, we had to do just that. We had to do our research, find out who owned the home, and track down cell phone numbers and whatnot. And we did reach the person. They were halfway across the country, but we found them. And so to answer your question, the records management system does have most people, but not everybody.
So I'm trying to see what the difference this would make with this versus another call towards something else, because it seems like you have the information. So I'm trying to see what.
Do you mean a call for service in regards to?
Like a noise complaint.
Yeah, so noise complaint, if we went to, let's say it was your house, same thing.
Yeah.
Whoever we speak to, we would put down, we'd get all your contact information, we put it in the system, and it's there. If it were a situation where, well, I'll use the hotels. We go to the hotels for complaints and issues there too. We get information from those people. We put it in the computer here in case we have contact with them again. But we also have interoperability with other police departments when we run stuff, what we call in-house. And when we run it locally, we can find out if it was a Wyndham or any other municipality that partakes in this program. We can just log in and see that similar stuff.
So on first incident of any kind of complaint or something, it's logged in the system and there's information in there?
It should be,
Okay.
if everyone does their job correctly.
Okay.
I think that, I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, certainly if there's I think that part of this is there may be issues that arise that are not of a police or criminal nature that wouldn't necessarily involve the police in the first instance.
Gotcha.
So maybe there isn't an emergent noise issue or something that needs to be addressed in the moment. But maybe there's something about the condition of the property or now the folks at the police department are very good at, as the chief said this evening, cooperating as a team with other departments and with town hall. But I do think that we're always cognizant to not make something a police matter that it shouldn't be a police matter. And I think
The one thing I wonder, so if an incident happens, and sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions, but if an incident happens in the middle of the night, which is generally probably more when a disturbance is, somebody's not going to be able to get a hold of somebody probably at town hall to go, hey, there's this going on.
It's
but
a good point.
It would leave it to the police. That's where
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if somebody has an issue in the middle of the night, they're probably going to call the police.
Yeah.
Correct.
But some of excuse me.
No, that's right.
Some of the complaints that happened weren't just noise that happened
That's
in the
right.
middle of the night. They
That's
were trash
accumulating.
spilling over,
Right.
We had that. We had speeding. We had loitering or prowling at other people's properties. We've had those things. Yep.
And then there were questions about is this building rated for this number of people?
Yeah.
And the
That
police-
specific house, I believe LFD did follow up and go there
Correct.
for that one. And I think if I can remember a year ago, I'm pretty sure that the homeowner was responsive to
Yes.
LFD's approach and changed his listing, I believe.
And that's another good point, which is we do have the fire department that can assist as well if there's a fire department nexus. So your point is well taken that is this a
Duplicate
a
of-
problem or a solution in search of a problem?
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
So I guess in a way to look at this is a file maintenance issue with being able to reach homeowners if there is an issue at that site. So, kind of going back at what Kristen and Doug were doing with managing facilities and having a fee for that. This is at least just a fee for tracking and having someone either, maintaining that contact information in town hall, the police department, fire department, having that access point, because we need to be able to at least, have the right contact info and maintain it so that, if there is an issue.
The only difference I see between those two, though, is town hall is a public, and these are private residences, and generally people who aren't professional businesses at this generally, and that's where I worry a little bit.
I think you could probably solve that too, much like we have when homeowners or businesses have alarms and they want the police to respond. Well, we do an annual checkup or biannual with them. We get contact information, updated cell phones, any change of address, emails for that moment of a what if. If someone's on vacation in Paris and there's an emergency at their home, someone's going to call the police. And if for an example like that, we would be able to say, okay, we go to our contact sheet for this address, emergency contact person, whatever, and we could track them down that way too.
You know, there is.
Real quick, if I can.
Oh, yeah.
I know Ron had been waiting to say.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to ask a quick question. Would this, Chief, would this help you? Do you feel like this would help the police department?
I think I came into it late because I had
Yeah,
to go take care of one thing next door. Well, I think regulations are important. I think as long as it's thought through thoroughly, I think that if the mechanism is in place for police and fire to reach someone, I think it starts with you guys in the terms of getting the proper form, chatting with both police and fire, see what we all need, and maybe even code enforcement. And then much like we do with hawkers and peddlers license of that nature, when people are out soliciting in town or venues, they give a form to us and the fire chief, and we review it. We sign off once we acknowledge what the event is and things like that. So I think if those plans are properly documented and vetted through all the departments that it affects, I think it could be very useful.
Has this been through the other
Could I make
departments?
this? Oh, sorry.
for
No,
fee-
not police and fire, other than in a general sense, which is
Okay. Just
those
the general
departments
reading.
were involved in this
Yeah.
particular issue. Which
Gotcha.
was, yeah.
Could I make a suggestion that we don't vote on this tonight, that we have fire and police input?
Absolutely.
And code enforcement.
Code
too.
enforcement, sorry, yes,
Yes.
code enforcement. And
Absolutely.
get their input
Absolutely.
and just kind of have everybody on board with it?
I'm okay
that
with whatever you guys need from us. I'll take the direction from the boss, and we'll figure it out, and I'll come back when it's on the agenda.
So Mike,
Well, and I had one other item.
I have a technical question. Being that this is a public hearing, what
Yes.
is the vehicle that we move this to another?
It would be to table it
Okay.
for tonight.
So a motion and a second and a vote to table it.
Correct.
All right.
So,
Well, no, I.
It's
think
a public hearing. Go to the public.
It is a
Yeah.
public
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah.
So, before we move on, I had another question for the chief.
Sure.
What would be, I guess, the response time that you would potentially want from a homeowner? Because right now we have in here an hour. Would you want more time than that to be able to have them respond back to you guys?
I think if there were a true emergency in someone's home, I'd be willing to bet they'd be calling us a lot quicker than with an hour. If their house is
You
a
hope.
fire, or it's being burglarized, or whatever the case may be, or sprinklers, whatever it might be, you would assume that the person would be invested in their property and call us right away.
You would hope.
But with that, I think I would just defer that to the council and the town manager's discretion as what they deem appropriate, and we'll follow along with whatever is presented to us.
All right. So I'm going to move along and bring it to the public.
Yeah.
Do I have anything regarding ordinance 2024-12 relative to adopting the short-term rental ordinance? Just name and address, sir, please.
Stop signs at the
Ordinance.
End of every driveway.
Tony D. Francesco, 1 Cheshire.
Good
As I-
evening.
As I said before, I'm here to talk about puppies. So the short-term rental thing was something that I've been asking about since, I think, before Kevin Smith was town manager, when this was starting to be an issue. And to be clear, this type of a thing, it's a land use issue. It's a zoning issue. And this type of a thing is used all over the country, and in particular, all over the state of New Hampshire. This is not just a Londonderry thing, okay? And I think you're kind of missing the point a little bit, because one of the things that we have to be aware of is that somebody who buys a home in Londonderry in a residential neighborhood should be afforded the protection of not having a hotel next to them. And so if there is going to be a hotel, which in my opinion, one person's opinion, is a commercial use, if there is going to be a commercial use going on, and I consider renting a home as a commercial use. People will argue, whatever, that's fine. We're going to agree to disagree. But I will tell you that if in fact that is allowed by the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution, whatever, then there is a duty from the town who has a duty to manage the land to be able to manage the properties. So it all seems to be a theme there. And I will tell you, I own properties, and I will tell you that there are issues, and it's not always at 2 o'clock in the morning. I will also tell you that the one we had recently in town, the gentleman that owned the property came to you folks at the meeting and said there needs to be an ordinance, and it was his property. But there are many things that happen at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not all at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would encourage this kind of a thing. If nothing else, to me, it's more of a registration process, and I mentioned this at the planning board, than it is an application. It's a registration. We want to know who you are, where your property is. Give us some phone numbers, your wife's cell phone number, your cousin's cell, anybody that we can get a hold of when you have a rental going on and somebody's in Tony's yard picking tomatoes because they didn't have any for their barbecue in the rental because they don't know where the stores are. Okay? The other thing that I used was 12 undergraduates coming up to Londonderry from Harvard to pick apples on a weekend. They don't give a crap about Londonderry. They don't give a crap about the neighbors. They don't give a crap about anything. And at 3 a.m, when they're all drunk and they're throwing apples at the neighbor's gazebo to see who could get it through the screen, these are things that happen. When you have somebody on top of a roof shooting fireworks at the neighbor's house because it looked really cool when it hit the peak of the roof and exploded, that happened to me. So there's a lot of things that can happen. But if you have the mindset of you owe it to the people in the residential neighborhoods to protect them from others, I think you do have that duty. And I think as land management officers, for lack of a better term, you have a duty to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment regarding ordinance 2024-12? Good evening.
Good evening. Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. I'm here as a citizen and a property owner. I'm here in opposition to this ordinance. And over the past couple of years, I have learned that there is a huge difference between somebody in life and in law between the word shall and may. This ordinance is a shall. It is meaning that it is a requirement of a home or property owner in Londonderry, of every property owner in Londonderry. And I want to know what you're trying to accomplish here. So, how does this benefit the residents of the town? Why does the town getting involved in this? Okay? I understand that there were complaints from residents and concern propping this ordinance, but I have many concerns, and I brought them to the town manager. We have many residents and non-residents that rent properties in town. I have a huge amount of condos near me, and many of those condos are owned by out-of-state owners, and the people rent them, okay? They're long-term. They're, for the most part, more than 31 days. They have problems there, too, with people leaving trash around, with noise in the middle of the night, with the police being called over. I see them in the police log all the time over behind where I live. And these are renters for over 31 days. But yet we are not requiring those owners of property who are renting longer than 31 days to register. We don't require them to get permits for using. If there is a violation of noise, is the owner of that property notified and has a 24-hour contact? No, they don't. It is handled the same way for them as it would be for someone who's renting under. I spoke at length today to Deputy Chief, correct, Breen, about this. And I asked him if he got called to a rental property in town, a house in town, for noise or different things in middle of the night, would he go looking for the owner and call them at 2 o'clock in the morning? They would handle it as noise, keep it down, blah, blah, blah. And please correct me if I'm not saying what you're saying. And then if it had to be dealt with, it would be dealt with the next day or whatever. If there was drinking, it would be handled as a breaking of the law of minor drinkings. If there were drugs, it would be handled as a police matter. I don't understand what the owner, if you call the owner who lives in California and is renting for 30 days as opposed to 31 days, what do you expect them to do about the trash that was left outside? What happens in the condos behind me or any place else when there is trash left outside? If it is a police matter, the police will handle it if they are sending fireworks, whether they are renting for 30 days or 5 years. It's a police matter. So my question is, secondly, if I own a house and I'm a snowbird, okay, I go away for 3 months out of the year, and I have a chance to rent my property for 29 days to someone, do I have to do this? If I do a house swap with a person, I go to Florida for 3 months, or let's say a month, you want it 30 days, go to Florida for a month, and they come and live in my house for a month, which people do all the time. Are they required to do this? What if my adult children are going to live in my house for under 30 days while I'm not there because they're in the process of moving and they're going to pay me rent? Does that mean I have to register them? I feel that this is a huge overstep and violation of my personal rights as a property owner. The purpose is stated to regulate. I'd like you to consider this being a may as opposed to a shall, and offer this as a service to people who are doing short-term rentals and say, gee, you're doing short-term rentals, we'd like you to register, let us know that you're doing this, give us your contact, so in case there is an issue with the police or with this or with that, you can be gotten in touch. We need less regulations over our personal rights, not more. And this is a regulation over my right as a property owner. Not personally. I live in a development where you can't do this, but I signed an agreement when I moved in 16 years ago that said I couldn't do this type of thing. But we have many, many, many people in this town who do not live in this town, who own property in this town, and you're going to regulate people who rent for under. So I'm going to rent my property only for 31 days at a time instead of 30. Then I don't have to do this. It just doesn't make sense. And it is an overreach, I believe, of government regulation. I am in judiciary when I'm not wearing my citizen hat, and we get the landlord, tenant, all of those coming before us all the time. And it really is a nightmare for what the landlord's rights are and what the renter's rights are. So I'm aware of this type of thing that goes on. But to force individual owners to register their homes for rental, I believe, is an overreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public regarding ordinance 2024-12? Good evening.
Good evening. Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. Christine said what I wanted to say much more eloquently than I probably would have. But I do agree with everything she said. This is an invasion of my privacy and my house to do what I want. And to me, it all breaks down to the officers coming to a call and doing what they're supposed to do. And you were talking about trash and leaving it out. It works the same whether I'm an owner or a renter. The police officers will come and say, "Oh, excuse me, you have to do this." And if they don't do it, there are rules already in place that say what the next steps are. Why do we keep adding more and more rules? I don't understand what our town is looking for lately. When I looked at the agenda on Saturday, when I finally got the agenda, I looked at it and I'm like, we're in budget season. We really should be talking about budget issues. And I'm looking at renting buildings and these property rental things, which to me, you guys had off all summer. If you wanted to do something like this, the time to have done this was in the summer instead of taking all that time off. These are little frivolous things that, kind of just could have happened in the summer. We have much, much bigger issues in this town right now that need to be addressed and need the time to address them in a procedural fashion that would do a good job in responding to people. I mean, personally, I wish the town council chambers, maybe not that quite full, but we're always filled like that with people asking questions because that's what it's about. And, I know it's a hard job to sit there and have to listen and sometimes take punches to the face. And I just think that you do a good job and you try to do your best, but sometimes some of these things, to me, are just way overstepping what needs to be done. We need to get our house in order. We need to have our departments in order. We need to have our business in order before we start thinking about all this other stuff that's really frivolous. So thank you.
Thank you. And is there anyone else from the public that wants to? And then Christine, if you want to come back up. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Dave Plaza, 207 Pillsbury. Christine, well said. I would agree. Shall is something very restrictive. May might be a good thing. Let's face it, if we go out and go away for 2 weeks, I have no problem calling the police department and say, hey, keep an eye on my house, please. If you see about a rager going on, let me know. So let's keep it simple. Stay out of our personal lives, out of our personal property. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, do you want to come back up?
Yes, I'm sorry. Christine Perez, 5 Leslie Drive. The other thing is that I thought of that I forgot to say is it's actually could be considered a form of discrimination. You're discriminating. If I rent more than 31 days, I don't have to do this. But if I rent less than 31 days, I do have to do that. Why?
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, counsel.
So, I will say, I think that the day count in here certainly needs to be changed because I think the majority of people who probably rent these particular properties are not staying for 30 days. They're most likely staying for a weekend or maybe a week at most. I mean, it's not, you're not going to see someone on a VRBO home renting it for 30 days, right?
I wouldn't expect so.
Right. So
typically, yeah.
That's the jackpot if you
Yeah, right.
Someone does pay that much. Yeah.
But you do have to draw the line somewhere. I think I will say in response to some of the thoughtful comments, the house sitting scenario or the snowbird scenario, I don't think falls under the reach of this ordinance because we're not only talking about a timing requirement. We're not only starting the clock and then counting 30 days. We also have a requirement that it be occupied by people who are transient occupants, lodgers, or guests. So I think that takes it outside of the family situation or the friend situation, guests is as close as you would get, I think, to that. But I think the intent here, and you can certainly clarify it, is that that transient, days long, sometimes weeks long, but not usually more than 30 days use that generates, is it more intensive, can be a more intensive use that generates a lot of these concerns. That's what we're targeting here with this ordinance. I think that in terms of is it discriminatory, I mean, anything is discriminatory that draws a line somewhere. But I think what the law looks at in terms of discrimination that is prohibited is if you are discriminating against someone based on a protected status or a protected class. And short-term rental, people who are engaging in short-term rental are not a protected class that's recognized in the United States.
I'd like to make a motion to table this issue until police, fire, code enforcement, and some other issues can be addressed.
All right,
Second.
So I have a motion from Ron, second from Sean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. It is tabled. All right, ordinance 2024-11. An amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to section 2, adding the definition of a butter. Mr. Town Manager, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So like the short-term rental ordinance, this is something that we got as feedback from, in this case, not the planning board, but feedback that we received from the community. And the feeling was that, town land use boards are making decisions that people aren't necessarily having the full opportunity to participate in. Maybe they're not aware that these hearings are taking place because of how the mailings and the notices are currently being sent. Currently, the requirement is that we comply with the state statute, which defines a butter as either contiguous in terms of property lines or across the street or stream from the property. This would expand the definition of a butter, so we're still complying with the state definition of a butter, but we are requiring notice to properties within 400 feet that don't meet that definition of a butter. Again, the purpose is to make sure that people have the opportunity to participate in the land use and development process. Purpose is also to improve confidence in the decisions of our land use boards, because I do think that a lot of the feedback that we've been receiving in the last couple of years is that these boards are making decisions that are not in line with the concerns of the residents. And I think that if we can get more involvement, get more people aware of what is happening, that there will be not only an opportunity to participate, but there will be hopefully better confidence in what these boards are doing and higher quality decisions. Because I firmly believe that the more people that you have involved in decisions, the better outcomes you have. I will tell you that in bringing this to the planning board, I was a little bit surprised but not disappointed. I think it was an incredibly thoughtful discussion, a really good discussion at the planning board. That maybe this is going to overcomplicate things. That there is the cost factor that we have to consider, which is if we are expanding the definition of a butter, we are passing costs along to developers, not only developers as we use that term in the large sense, but also people who maybe want to do a lot line adjustment or subdivide their property into two separate lots. And when we're requiring those regular folks to send out more certified mailings at $9 and something cents a piece, that's something that we need to balance. The other concern that the planning board had was that again, some of the feedback that I received was in this particular situation, the town was in a butter of this property that was under development. And because the town was in a butter, the abutters of that property owned by the town did not receive notice and didn't know that this was happening. And the town wasn't necessarily functioning in the status of an abutter there. We were functioning in the status of a town. And so I think the board had significant concerns about that from a practical standpoint, because if, for example, the property under development is adjacent to the Musquash, you would then have to give notice to every residence abutting and every property abutting the Musquash, probably thousands. And so that point was well taken. But again, just to underscore, I think that you can you can agree or disagree that this is something that we need to move forward with, but it is important to remember that this is feedback that I received from the community, and I thought it was important to at least have a discussion about it.
Thank you. So we're going to change things up a little bit and kick it to the public if they have any comments on this. Seeing none, we'll go back to the council.
No, I think it's good to expand out our reach for what exactly is an abutter, and as well the classification. So I think that'll be good to do so. And I guess the only other thing would be, do we want to send out abutter notifications sooner than what we've been doing? Because I know in the past there's been some people who said that they never received an abutter letter.
Right.
So do we want to make sure that we're sending them out even further in time so that, you know, the Postal Service is able to deliver those in time?
That's a good question. It's certainly something that we can look at. Right now, there is a statutory deadline, and I would want to get a legal opinion that, like this, we could certainly give more notice. I think we certainly could, but I want to just get legal to put eyes on that to make sure that wouldn't create any additional concerns. There may be a bit of a practical issue there, which is with some applications before the planning board, for example, you're on a very compressed time frame with the submission deadline and then the meeting. But I think that's certainly something that we can look at. I think it's a good comment, and I'm happy to look at it.
To address some of the planning board issues that you mentioned, is there a way that this could be, I guess, rewritten legally a different way so that we could address those issues that they had? Because it seemed like they were pretty good issues.
I thought so too. So I think I would advise striking the last sentence that says, in any case where the town of Londonderry is an abutter, abutter shall also include all abutters to that parcel or parcels.
Okay.
And you know, the question came up, well, where did 400 feet come from? You know, you have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
We played around with the map with the GIS function. And I think that we didn't get down into the weeds of whether 300 or 400 feet or some other number made sense, because the planning board didn't like it to begin with. But the council certainly could choose to expand that. I wouldn't recommend expanding that.
Yeah.
I think if anything, you know, you should have a discussion about whether 400 or 300 feet makes sense. But I do advise, if the pleasure of the board is to adopt this, I think the planning board made a good point, which is this abutter of an abutter thing, well-intentioned, but doesn't work in practice.
Right.
So,
Of course. Yes, please. Thank you.
Diane Vaudier, 87 Pillsbury Road. I think it's a terrible idea to expand the number of abutters that you have. I think the definition of it has been pretty clear. I think it limits any kind of entrepreneurship that people may have in town. I think it puts everybody else in your business, no matter what you want to do. And I don't agree with your statement that the more the merrier, kind of paraphrase, to put that in there, because I think it pits neighbor against neighbor. I think it is. I mean, I remember receiving an abutter letter for somebody who wanted to move their shed, and it's, what do I care what they do, as long as it's within the 15 feet allotment. That really is none of my business, and it shouldn't be any of my business. So I don't think that we should expand it. I don't think more people in the pot make a better decision. Sometimes the fewer people that need to be notified are the people that need to be notified. I don't think it needs to go to the abutter of the abutter. And then, as a few people have pointed out, there's a time restriction sometimes. There are, it's just a number of different issues that should be among the neighbors, your initial people, your neighbors, the one who lives to the left of you, the one who lives to the right of you. Why are we making individual lots of land everybody's business in town? It shouldn't be. It should be the way it has been, to go through the proper channels, absolutely 100% go through the proper channels, but I don't really care if the neighbor moves their shed. I don't really care if they do a lot realignment. And I don't think it's productive, and I think it's a waste of my money. If I wanted to do a lot line adjustment, it's a waste of my money, it's a waste of resources, and it puts far more discussion that needs to be had about something like that on the homeowner. and I don't think it's productive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for opening it back up. Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire. The young woman that just spoke before you is a Londonderry High School graduate, probably one of the best athletes that ever graduated from Londonderry. So I know you don't know that, but I've been around for a while. So 400 feet's way too much.
First for the record.
I did. Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire, but that's okay. It's not late yet. Planning board goes till 11, so we'll keep guys here for a while. So yeah, I mean, 400 feet is too long. It's too big. If you think about, I was thinking about after the planning board meeting, one of the metrics that I thought of was in the older neighborhoods, the ones from the 2000s or less. Those lots are all on the street around 150 feet, which is how the 150-foot abutter, I think, came into play in the first place. So if you want to do something, it's already 150 feet. If you do 300, that's 2 instead of 1. You know what I mean? If you're going to increase it. But do you need to increase it? I don't know. The whole thing started because a lady was across a stream from a development that she was going to be able to see the development, but she didn't get the notice because she wasn't a real abutter because it was across a stream. And that's how the whole thing started. And now, it kind of morphed into its own thing. But thank you. I appreciate you opening it back up.
Council, excuse me, what do you want to do?
I think they make some significantly good points. The other thing is I want to be careful because I'm starting to see this a little bit. We get in a pattern of there's one incident of something, and all of a sudden something shows up. And so, if we don't need to, we don't need to.
So what do you want to do?
Well, I want to hear from the rest of you.
I say we need more information, I think. If we're going to do this. If we're not going to do it, then
information would you want?
Then if we're not going to do it, then we won't do it at all.
What kind of information do you want?
I'm just more information as far as how it's going to be written. Is it legal? Like the verbiage how it's exactly written is what I'm thinking. How is it written and legally interpreted? Like I'm trying to think of what Mike is saying, and if we're going to do this, cover all the points that he mentions very carefully, or we leave it alone.
Yeah, we can table this for the time being, and we can come back at another time, and when he and our attorneys revise this a bit more.
That's totally fine with me. I think it's, like I said, I felt like I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't bring it forward for a discussion, and I thought the discussion at the planning board was excellent. I thought it was a really good discussion here. Again, there's points that came out tonight that weren't discussed at the planning board, so.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second it.
So I have a motion from Ron, second from Sean, all in favor of tabling it. Ordinance 2024-11, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative.
And I will say, I completely agree. I don't care if my neighbor moves their shed. As long as it doesn't, obviously, encroach the 15 feet.
Yeah.
Even better.
All right, so with that, I'll accept the motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ted, second from Ron, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Old business, extending sealing of the October 7, 2024 Town Council non-public minutes relative to RSA 91A:4, Section 2D until November 4th, 2024, under RSA 91A:3, Section 3.
So moved.
A
Second.
motion and a second from Ted and a second from Ron.
We need a roll call vote.
Exactly. And just the reason is that and Kirsten will.
Yeah, so the matter that was discussed during the non-public session has not come to full resolution yet, and therefore we're asking you to seal it for another 2 weeks to be able to give the measure the full consideration that it is due.
All right, so a motion from Ted, second from Ron. Roll call vote, starting with Sean.
Aye, Sean Favor.
Aye, Ted Combs.
Aye, Chad Franz.
Aye, Ron Dunn.
All right.
And just for the record, this is it's no secret based on the statute that's cited. This is about the potential acquisition of real estate. We don't broadcast that until we either decide yes or no. I have every expectation that by the next meeting, the need to continue to seal these minutes will have passed. And as another reminder, the other item that was discussed under non-public at the same time was not sealed.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Approval of minutes, October 7th, 2024. Everyone has had an opportunity, I assume, to review those.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Ted, second from Ron. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Want to abstain. Chair votes in the affirmative. Minutes are approved. Liaison reports.
I have one tonight. I'll be brief. Beautify Londonderry had their fall cleanup on Saturday. They had 25 people participate and collected 32 bags of waste. And it was a beautiful day. Just wish more people would have come out. But we're going to try to do a better job of communicating that in the fall. But I was considered a success. 25 people with 32 bags of trash. It was a success.
All right.
I also, on that note, would like to thank, I know AdMix, which is a local company in town up by the airport, actually did a cleanup this week too in coordination with some of those people on a separate day. So I'm just thankful that other people are contributing too to help clean up this town. So love to see more of it.
Absolutely.
All right. Town manager report.
None.
Thank you very much. Before I go to adjourn, is there anyone in the public that'd like to add anything else?
I just wanted to add one item from the Recreation Commission meeting that I was at recently. Just wanted to remind everyone at home, and hopefully if anyone's listening, anyone who does not live in town, that there are no dogs allowed at the rec fields at West Road for the soccer fields.
Okay.
They've had a lot of instances with people bringing dogs. They've had to, people, please leave with your dog and either bring it home or somewhere else, but it is not welcome on the field. They don't want to have to maintain the dog defecating on the fields and not then picking back up the dog's situation. And so it's been an issue of people not maintaining the rules there. So just please leave your dogs at home when you're coming to the soccer field.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Dave Wally, Director of Public Works and resident of Londonderry for 25 years. I think it's a time and a place for comments. We've heard a lot this evening, and I'd be remiss if I didn't come up and say something as one of the first responder units in town. I know we're the lesser of the three. I get it. We know where we stand on the pegs, but in a few more weeks, perhaps everybody's going to want to know where this unit is. The Team Yellow. And I think Kim did an excellent job speaking on behalf of all the department heads and the challenges that we have each and every year, putting them together in a responsible way that won't compromise the safety of our staff, and that is an extremely delicate balance. I've been doing it now for 29 years, 3 in this town, and I've watched many boards come and go and whatnot. And we're in it together. I don't quantify it or look at it as a fight. I look at this as a community decision on doing what we need to do to move forward with what's best for the town as a whole, without compromising, obviously, safety for our staff in the town that we provide safety to. I heard some gentlemen talk tonight, and as we sit through a lot of the public safety committees, the traffic safety committee talk about speed in this town. We had a gentleman come up tonight and talk about motorcycle safety in town and people driving around. My team knows exactly what it's like out there. Try working in the street. If you think it's dangerous riding a motorcycle in town or driving in town, try working in the middle of the road. We don't have the blue lights. We don't have the red lights. We're not that sexy, okay? But we are important nonetheless. The Public Works Department touches your life every day, from the moment you get up to taking a shower, to making sure the sewer goes somewhere, to making sure your traffic lights work, that when stop sign Tony, is he still here? No?
Yeah.
He wants a stop sign put up, that they're all up and they're in order. It's a difficult job. And then more importantly, later on in the season, we do really take our charge that red and blue follow yellow, and we understand extremely well what it means when these two teams need to get to where they need to be. The road's got to be plowed, the trees got to be cleared, and I would say that myself and Kim and Bo and the town manager included, through talking about communication, we kind of formed a little safety summit group, if you will, and it all clicked very, very well going into, we had talked about that at the beginning of last winter season, and it clicked very well at the end of the season when we had that little mini ice storm, windstorm, took down a lot of power in town, and trees and wires and whatnot. And we were all clicking harmoniously and moving, and everybody got to go home safe. And it's important. So, we talked about the DPW and our lack thereof facility. We don't even have a facility. We have a garage. We're jealous that the PD has a lift for their cruisers. We don't even have a lift. So some of the things that we have to do, we have to get creative. I'd like to double our staff, but that's not possible. Wouldn't even have lockers to put them in, and things of that nature. We don't have a national level safety for the DPW. We don't have, 13 or 15. We don't have thresholds. But I can tell you what, when I look at the eyes of a guy that's been plowing for 36 hours straight, and I know he's tired, and I know he wants to go home, and I know he hasn't been there with his family and whatnot, and I'm terrified that he's going to go out there and perhaps hurt himself or hurt somebody in the public, while he's plowing. But we get together as a team, we talk it through, we work hard, and we do what we got to do, and we get the job done. And I don't believe that the Team Red and Team Blue aren't doing that either. But there's a limit and there's a delicate balance, like I was talking about. So as we go into the budget, we can't get it all at once. You'll be hearing from me about the success we've had over the last 3 budgets that we move forward in vehicle replacement, and we've turned the corner at DPW, so you're going to be hearing about that. Perhaps it's gone unnoticed that when I first got here, the fleet budget was half of what it is right now, and that was a great deal of work with Town Manager Malaguti and Justin Campo. They realized that in right-sizing the budget and making some significant changes, and there's certainly more work to be done. I don't pretend to know the challenges at the fire department, but I think, Sean, to your point, you were pretty on point tonight about looking at making sure that we're truthful when we put forward a budget. If the truth hurts, it hurts. It's got to be shown. And I hope that the passion continues with what we heard here tonight from the community, not just for the fire department, but for the entire town. It was mentioned here tonight, and that's why I felt compelled to come forward, kind of almost poking a little bit about, that we're painting offices and putting in carpeting and things of that nature. Well, those were all in the plans last year. But I had to put it on the back burner because we were in a budget freeze, because of crunches and line items that probably weren't appropriate. You make signs like this seal, that's a sticker that's supposed to be on a truck that we cut a sign up and to make it. Those are sometimes the things you do in order to save a penny here or save a dime there. But those decisions are made every day. We have to be leery of the people that can't afford the tax rate to go through the roof. I'm a taxpayer in this town. First public works director I worked for 30 years ago. First time I was on a committee for a union, and the DPW director kind of nationally said, you're going to safety us right out of business, to the union. And it struck me as pretty careless back then and kind of, odd. How could you put a number on safety? But there is a point where, after being now in the budget process now 29 years, there's points where you have to say, are we doing all we can, but where's the limit? So I'm looking forward to November 2nd. I've ripped up my budget a couple times already over the last few weeks. But there's some tough decisions to be made. But it's not a fight. It's not a fight. It's going to take everybody in this room. It's going to take everybody elected. It's going to take everybody appointed or hired. But to just start firing people and slinging, mud. It's not going to fix anything. Those problems are still going to be here. We're talking about it. Some of these lines have been like this for 15 years. This didn't happen in the last 15 months. So that's my 2 cents. I know that there were some people that were kind of, telling me not to speak and whatnot, but I felt that some of my things that were on my chest needed to be a matter of public comment and public record for that matter. So thank you for the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before I go to adjourn, ask for adjournment, is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ted, second from Ron. Folks, meeting schedule, budget kickoff is November 2nd. It's a Saturday here in the Moose Hill Council Chambers at 9 a.m. We have a regular council meeting scheduled November 4th at 7 p.m., as well as the 18th at 7 p.m. With that, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Hold on one moment. Just want to remind everyone, election is November 5th. Our next meeting is November 4th. Please, everyone, remember, election is November 5th.
November 5th. All right, all in favor, say aye.